2024 Le Maestros DLC. Get behind the wheel of 6 new classic cars. Race like a rally legend in 18 new liveries. We've got new stages in Portugal, including the iconic Bath stage. Also tackle new stages in Monte Carlo in all weather conditions. Now is your turn to relive the era of French dominance.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Le Maestros preview event.
Bonjour et bienvenue pour cette diffusion pour le DLC Le Maestros de EA SPORTS WRC. Hello and welcome.
Yes, welcome along. If you are just tuning in for the very first time, no, this will not be a complete live translation between English and French, but it is, of course, the Creator Series back for our WRC event. This time around, we're heading for the Le Maestros new DLC that's come to EA Sports WRC.
Yeah, indeed. It's a huge update, let's say, lots of tracks, lots of cars, and some of the most popular ones, especially for the French audience, let's say, or people that remember the WRC from about 1995 onwards. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to get into, and some new stages in Portugal and Monte Carlo, which are absolutely spectacular.
I've seen some people's preview footage, I mean, including your preview footage. I saw you posted a couple of YouTube videos over the last couple of days of you running through the stages. They look absolutely incredible. And who can go through this DLC without mentioning the FAF stage in Portugal? I've probably pronounced that completely wrong, but that jump is an absolute killer.
There's 2 jumps in that stage that are taken somewhat flat out if you're brave enough, and if you've got nothing to lose, let's put it that way. The FAF jump obviously being the quite literal last jump and last corner of the rally in real life, so Jeopardy on the line trying to score power stage points. So iconic, and I can remember many incidents from that stage, both on the live broadcast and from national rallies. So yeah, it's one to look out for. And a stage that I think is very, very popular and has been very requested in the past. So it's great to have it there. And I must admit, I enjoyed driving it, most definitely with the C3 WRC.
I'm really looking forward to giving it a shot when I get an opportunity to have a play around with the DLC. But let's have a little look forward to tonight. Who we've got on the broadcast? We've got an exceptional list of names taking on 3 different rallies over 3 different car classes. And we'll introduce them as we go through the stage. We've got some returning names, some names that are quite infamous among the F1 Creator Series, and some new faces as well.
Yeah, some people who are totally unfamiliar with the WRC style of driving. Some people have done some events in the past, but they're going to have to learn pretty quickly, especially if our local resident Punju has put snow on the Monte Carlo stages. That could be quite interesting to watch them tackle that for the first time. But yeah, we've got regulars returning. Obviously, Punju, as I said. We've got Jamo NG, Contan Del Olmo, Mr. Kamikaze and Vlembar returning as with some other people as well, who I'm not seeing in the voice chat at the moment. But yeah, there are some superstars, let's put it that way, in this lineup.
Certainly are. I'm really looking forward to it. And we're about to head racing. We're not far away from going on to our first rally, and that is Monte Carlo. And we head there, I think, in the new car class, WRC 12 to 16. They've split what was an existing car class, kind of put it in 2, haven't they?
Yeah, so they took the 2011 Mini WRC, updated it a little bit to the 2012 package, and put it in a new class with two of the new cars for the DLC, the DS3 2011 and 2012 edition, depending on the livery, and the Polo 2013. And I must say, it's one of the most well-balanced classes. There's only a few tenths of a second between the cars, and it will all come down to your driving style and which one you prefer. And I must say, it's probably my favorite class now. It's just so nice to drive. You got lots of grip, enough power to get going at a very good speed, four-wheel drive, quite a bit of downforce as well. It's just a all-round package of a car class, and brilliant stuff, I must say.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how our creators deal with the conditions this afternoon. I mean, I think it's the only car class that we have this evening that we've got a split amongst our drivers as to which car they're taking. So we've got some in the Polo R 2013. We've got some in the Citroen DS3 from 2012. Everybody else is either in one of those two. When we head later, we've got just a one car class across the board. So it'll be interesting to see how different drivers fare with different cars at this location.
Yeah, there's always a difference in terms of performance. As I tried to explain it to a few people that asked me the question, the DS3 is quite I'd say an understeery car, but if you use the handbrake a lot, it can be very fast with a smooth driving style. If you've got an aggressive driving style, the Polo is really good. Holding slides, it's got very sort of progressive grip loss, and so you can use that sort of momentum and weight transfer to keep the speed, but in all reality, the cars will be pretty well balanced across all stages. So, as you said, it will be very interesting to see who gets the better of everyone else.
Wow, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. Drivers are just choosing their cars from what I understand. And if you do tune in regularly on a Monday evening to one of our Creator Series broadcasts here on WRC, just a slight twist on how things are working. If you watched our other preview event for the DLC that came out just a couple of months ago, you'll remember how it ran with that. So it's almost, we're running a multiplayer lobby. We will be spectating in that. So I believe we'll be able to see pretty much everybody at the same time, at least ghosted cars as they kind of pass through. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I think we'll be able to see all of the drivers there. I'm sorry, my audio has cut out for a second here, so I'm struggling to hear you on that one. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how quickly they can get to grips with these cars. I really do think that, especially with Monte Carlo, the non-regulars are going to struggle to just get up to pace. And of course, as we've said in the Creator Series for a long time, the mistakes happen, and when they do happen, they just compound one on top of the other. So maybe for some sort of Formula One drivers who are used to runoff areas, if they don't have that possibility to sort of take a step back and regain their sort of calm and serenity, then we're going to see a lot of problems.
Certainly are indeed, and we have got our drivers out on runs at the moment. Punju leading us away in the Citroen DS3. He'll be looking to try and make a rather good impact over our lobby and get some early points on the board. Of course, all of our drivers will be competing to see who can finish these stages in the quickest of times. If you're new to rally, of course, and I can confirm he's driving in cockpit with, I believe, triple monitors as well, which makes it such an immersive experience for the man in the cockpit right now.
Yeah, you can just see the corner of the screen there with all of the foliage going by. And yeah, fog for the first stage, really tricky with snow also falling there, as you can see. So one of the sort of aspects of this stage is they're starting at the bottom of the stage, so the opposite direction to which it's run in real life. This is Entrevaux-Briançonnet, the name of the stage, but run in the opposite direction. It starts really technical and twisty, a lot of crash barriers, a lot of rocks, as you can see, and there's not really any opportunity to get a lot of speed up. There's quite a few hairpins coming up as well, so listening to the pace notes, just winding yourself, easing yourself into the stage. For the first half of the stage, there won't be too much snow on the ground, but once you reach the top of the col and go over the top, it's just complete sheet ice.
Yeah, it looks absolutely fascinating. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell where this road goes, let alone be able to go for it full throttle. That's why so many of these drivers rely on their co-driver, the pace notes that they're being given. As you can see on the left-hand side, Alex Gillen struggling with the hills of Monte Carlo. A lot of our drivers would complain that the circuit, or at least the temporary circuit that's erected in Monaco, is often quite narrow. Well, they've got a whole different kettle of fish here. how narrow the roads are.
Yeah, there's no red flags here. You drive in the fog whether you like it or not. And yeah, indeed, the cars are very, very fast in this four-wheel drive category. So you're reaching speeds of probably up to, I'd say, 160 kilometers per hour on these very brief straights. They can get up to 190 kilometers per hour. So you're really having to pick out those little details, that crash barrier, that little rock that marks the apex. And coming into this hairpin section, you really have to just trust the pace notes, trust your driving. And that's where the force feedback and sort of the grip of the car can really come into play. You have to have your settings dialed in. And that's one of the things that I love about these cars, is that they have such a progressive feel that you can really lean on the tires, use all of that grip, even if you're on the studded tires, which they should be, hopefully. I hope nobody's gone on soft tires on slicks, because they are going to run into so many problems at the top of the col. But as you can see, just working their way through. Now that they've got out of the valley, it starts getting faster and faster as Alex Gillen just overstepping the mark, getting on the gravel a little bit there, but recovering using the four-wheel drive. Very neatly done, it must be said.
Yeah, no major issues for Alex Gillen as he climbs up the hill here. The hairpin's coming at him rather thick and fast. We get an onboard with Lyric Sander here, a fresh new name in the WRC Creator Series, seeing how he can make his mark. And Jean Macho, or Machi, my apologies again, probably pronouncing names wrong, I will say that, topping our timing boards at the moment. But all the creators rather close together. But it is, bear in mind, Hayden Gullis and Alex Gillen, I think, did pick up this game for one of the first times this afternoon, hence why they're probably back off the pack.
They'll be towards the front of the pack probably at the end. I know they are very, very talented drivers, but speaking of talent, it wouldn't be a sort of French DLC without having a few French content creators, the Maestros we'll call them, for this evening, with Jean-Manche and Lyric Sander. Indeed, very, very entertaining streamers, that's for sure, and content creators. So I hope the French crowd is jumping with joy to see them on the Creator Series.
I really enjoy watching these guys drive. I only kind of started watching them the last couple of days when we were talking about having them on the show, and they've been absolutely fascinating to watch race through. And I believe Lyric's on a motion rig. You can kind of see it from his camera. Either that or he's got some incredible kind of dampers at the bottom.
Yeah, he has an amazing motion rig, it must be said. He cranks the setting quite high for his Instagram videos, and it's very entertaining watching him trying to record a video and also simultaneously not fall out of his seat. You'll notice that he actually has the sort of like seatbelt straps on, and I can tell you they are quite useful. In fact, Hayden driving with a full helmet right there, so that is very, very good. Not for his visibility, you might need the sort of side view because even with these cars, you sit pretty low inside the car, so seeing over the dash and all of that, you need all of the visibility possible. But he's doing the peak lobe era closed helmet design. Anybody that watched the WRC between, I'd say, 2003 and I think he switched in 2012 to an open helmet. That iconic sort of Formula One-esque helmet, the only driver to take that kind of helmet. So yeah, good on Hayden for doing that, and also in the Citroen.
Well, we've got one driver strapped into their seat, one driver prepared just in case they come flying out of theirs. It's a real mixed approach bag for this rally, at least the opening few stages of it. You can see by the little progression chart on the left-hand side, Quentin absolutely dominating the stage at the moment compared to some of our drivers. Fairly unexpected if you've watched a few of them. PJ Turning as well, a well-known name within the EA Sports WRC scene. So good to see him back and racing amongst some of our creators.
Yeah, having watched PJ drive at Goodwood, he surprised me with his level of driving. I know that back in the Dirt Rally 2 days at least, he put a lot of effort into practicing the stages, making sure that he knew everything about the game. So I'm sure it's like that still nowadays. So yeah, Hayden missed his braking and straight off into the trees, doing the delayed reaction helmet bob there. He needs a hands device on that helmet, a little bit of a crack on the windscreen there, but he's managed to get going again, so a little bit of damage done, but nothing too bad. It just proves how slippy it is. If you hit the brakes, like in Formula 1, trying to get maximum brake pressure, you're just going to slide straight off. You want to just tiptoes on the brake, trail braking effectively. But we can see PJ just demonstrating how we've got to chuck the car sideways, basically just treat it as if it's on gravel, but like you've got maybe 25% of the grip, you really need to know where you're going. And PJ really pushing the limits here. It must be said. Oh, up on the rocks there a little bit. You've got to be so careful on this section of stage because it's quite fast and flowing, at least if it's not icy. But you have quite a few just rocks sticking out from that, not cliff face, but the bank on the inside of the corner sometimes. And like, as you can see on that corner, for example, and they can so easily get under the wheel of the car, or just clip the bodywork and stop your momentum, spin you around. So you've got to be so calculated, and you've got to drive like the French maestros, like Seb Ogier and Seb Loeb.
It's so fascinating watching PJ drive. 90% of the time, that car is going sideways through at least one of the corners. He's thinking about every corner that's coming up ahead of him. He might have misjudged that right turn ever so slightly, but the rest of the time, the car's sideways. He's beautifully drifting the Polo each very way that he wants to send that car. It's beautiful. I'm actually enthralled by this.
Yeah, it's like a work of art, isn't it? Watching a WRC car drift, sideways on and just tiptoeing on the ice. Having spectated the Monte Carlo last weekend, it's PJ getting it very, very wrong in there. And as you can see, it just takes a milliseconds to make the wrong calculation, and around you go. Especially going over the crest there as he was, and going back down the valley now, you just lose all grip over the crest. And he tried to turn and nothing happened. And even in real life, you could see the drivers just tiptoeing on the ice, just being so careful. And this section here, you have to try and take flat out, but it will bite. The milliseconds that you get it wrong. PJ once again just clipping the rock face and is saved by a tree, ironically, from sliding down the entire valley right there. So he'll get it turned around and away he goes again.
Quite often we see trees, especially in Monte Carlo, ending careers and ending rallies. PJ just had his run absolutely saved by the tree on this occasion. We're being told stage ends in just under a minute. My only assumption there is someone has crossed the finish line already. So everyone else is going to have to try and play catch up to cross the line in order not to have the did not finish. Sean up towards the line has finished. Well, I think he has. No, he hasn't. Still going, just up towards the line here.
I think that was another crash from PJ just as we switched camera. Jean-Marc having a pretty good static camera there. Oh, he's crashed the same way as PJ had. Nice recovery. Look at that. Reverse entry, just kept the throttle flat. Perfect recovery.
Absolutely beautiful stuff that we're seeing. PJ across the line, I think almost final jam coming up towards the line as well. Everybody just finishing up the first of 4 stages that they'll have here in Rally Monte Carlo. Just to remind you of the format for this evening. 3 rallies. Oh, massive accident. Oh my goodness, that's a rock face there, Jam. You might want to avoid those.
Yeah, indeed. He just hit the brakes, and you can see the front tires at least just locked up. And I think he was trying to push to get to the end of the stage, just doing that last of late breakers, and it just didn't work out. Interesting to see the DS3 running very, very well in the wintry conditions. Maybe the Polo a little bit too much oversteer, but Lyric Sander doing a great job of French 1-2.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. 3 retirements as well. PJ Turney, Alex Gillen, and Hayden Gullis not making it to the end of that stage, so they will have something to prove in the next few runs. I'd love to get Hayden in for a chat and just see how his experience was with Rally for probably the first time in a long time. Hayden, welcome on to the show. Talk us through how that first run went for you.
So I'm glad I got the helmet on because, that was brave. That was crazy, but it was good fun. A lot of changing of conditions. Everything felt good. I was like, okay, this is good to get back into it. It's tarmac. This is nice. And all of a sudden, I'm just skating off in the distance.
How panicked were you when you hit the brakes on the ice and nothing happened?
Oh, big time. Yeah. I was like, whoa, what is this? What's happened to my car? And I realized quite quickly, I was like, oh, it's a little bit more slippery. So we're going to have to just feather the throttle everywhere. And then I got DNF'd, mainly just because I was rolling very pathetically down the side of a cliff. I got it beached on the edge. You know, like the Italian job, where it's just like balancing on the edge. And I'm like, I've got a bright idea. The bright idea didn't work, and it gave me terminal damage somehow.
Yeah, so you reenacted the version where they all step off of the bus rather than remaining in the bus, right? Got it. Notes to self, if you're teetering on the edge of a cliff, maybe don't change the weight balance of the car. But it just shows you, doesn't it, from a perspective of coming from the F1 game. how difficult is it maybe briefly to make the transition?
Yeah, totally. I've said it before that, F1's all about, well, it should be all about driving smooth and keeping the wheel as smooth as possible. But whereas rallying, you are not overly aggressive because you still are probably going to be losing time by constantly fighting the wheel, but you've got to be ready for the snaps for those small fine adjustments to flick the car around the corner and rotate it as much as possible. But it's a completely different kettle of fish, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch. I think quite a few of our drivers attempt it, yourself and Alex as well, stepping in for probably the first time in a considerable while that you're taking to the streets of Monte Carlo. But we'll let you hop off. We'll let you get ready for stage number 2, and we wish you the best of luck for it.
Thank you very much.
He's having to lift his visor there because I think it's steaming up a little bit under all of that. It's getting a little bit heated in the cockpit, you might say.
Yeah, hopefully the snow will cool them down quite significantly as they get ready for stage number 2. And I think a few drivers will be trying to put that behind them. PJ's definitely one of them. I wasn't expecting a DNF from him, but I think, as you said, the crashes that came rather quick and in a numerical order, they came one after another. That's what was really his demise there.
Yeah, it can be so difficult to judge where the limit is. 1 minute, as Hayden was describing, 1 minute you're on the pace, everything's going good, and then all of a sudden it just completely snaps on you, and away you go. And even for a man with such experience, such as PJ, you can get so easily caught out, and it's a millisecond stuff for Kamikaze there. Oh, just avoiding the crash barrier on the inside there. He's coming back after, I think, 2 months, he said, after not playing the game with the injury that he sustained just at the end of Creator Series. Not on broadcast, I would just want to point that out. But so a difficult return, it must be said, to go straight onto ice with WRC cars. But he seems to be handling it quite well, going over just the rocks. You can see how easy it is to clip those rocks, and Contam just making it look easy. Look at him.
I would say trial by fire for Kamikaze, but it is trial by ice here. In Monte Carlo. Quentin, on the other hand, absolutely throwing that Citroen sideways. And again, it is just handling and responding to every single input that it's putting in. Kamikaze, I think they're second overall in the run, but I think maybe some delay or something as that factors in. We will see accurate times at the second split.
Yeah, Contam just clipping the barrier there at high speed. He got away with that. Maybe 10 centimeters further or further behind on the stage, and he would have got a puncture from that. But just getting away with it. And that's the one thing also that the French drivers were renowned for, is testing the limits, but also never exceeding those limits, as you can see, going all the way, using the banking there to carry the maximum flat-out speed on these corners. Seb Loeb and Seb Ogier were renowned for just knowing where that limit was, never really going over it too much, and making their rivals make mistakes. And Contam there just getting caught out. Very, very rarely for him to get caught out, but it does happen to the best of us.
That little skip over the edge of the cliff looked like something you'd see in downhill biking, where you're just using all of the hill available to you to maximise your performance. On the right-hand side, we see back aboard with Sander as they're making their way down the mountain as well, just riding along some of the metal barriers, just making sure that they keep their car pointing in the correct direction. They'd rather have the cut on the left-hand side instead of hitting onto the right-hand side. Obviously, you don't want to clip yourself into the rocks. That would cause some carnage. That would throw your car around quite considerably, and that's the last thing that you want to try and navigate with. And we'll keep on board another little tap in towards the metal barrier, but so far continuing in the right direction.
Yeah, what I love about Alexander, he's very expressive. He's always got a smile on his face. He's just so into it, so passionate. You can see that he's just the intensity of just his look and his demeanor with the wheel and the driving. He's always 110%, and driving with the motion rig as well just gives you a different perspective. But it can be something to keep you focused on the driving and give you a little bit more of an idea of what the car is doing. A motion rig and other devices to give you the sensations, like rumble pads on a controller, for example. Actually very useful. I used a controller just to test the DLC as well with controller, and the vibration from the controller motors actually helps you in lockups and where the traction is on the ice. So yeah, there's a lot of features thrown in there to help you maybe not DNF as soon as you might think.
Yeah, that's one thing I absolutely love about the EA Sports WRC game. I started on controller. I went to a wheel only a couple of months ago, but when I was sat on the controller, the almost adaptive triggers as you're handling through the ice, through the snow, potentially even when you look at some of the more sunny environments, the gravel, the dust, the dirt, you really feel what's under your foot, under your tyres, and you can really adjust accordingly. But keep an eye, folks, on the left-hand side of that progression bar. Content's already very close to the finish, leaving this entire field behind. This man is on a completely different level, isn't he, Isaac?
Oh yeah, he is just going for it, and I know from speaking to him that he loves these stages and loves these cars, and most definitely looking at his driving style, they definitely suit his driving style. He's got quite a smooth sort of rallycross-esque style. He comes from predominantly from rallycross, and so you have to be very delicate on the power and on the brakes and just maximize the weight transfer. So this type of stage, these type of cars, just absolutely his cup of tea, or baguettes, let's put it that way.
Certainly is. I think a few issues for some drivers further back, Jam and John, just coming across the line. Alex Gillen and Hayden Gullis, of course, the two drivers that have stepped in from a different world of virtual motorsport into WRC this evening, just making their way up towards the line. Surely at some point Hayden's got to ditch the helmet and decide that it's not worth it going through these stages. I wonder if we won't see that until we head to Portugal for rally number 2 this evening. That almost was a cut, but saved by a road sign.
Yeah, indeed. I'm pretty sure he would have preferred the cut, to be fair. That's always embarrassing when you hit the brakes, lock up, and then there's a pole or a tree right there by the side of the road. So Conta Del Olmo taking another comfortable victory. Kamikaze and Vlembar, it's almost as if this is the Creator Series right now. They're doing really well. The Polo doing quite well in that stage as well.
Yeah, very much so. Turney and Punju making good recoveries as well. Jamo and G actually, and Sander losing out to Alex Gillen overall. So he's obviously found his feet, or should I say his tyres, heading into stage 2 of 4 this afternoon. It's somehow how he's managed to pull it back. John, I chose the interview last time around. Who do you want to have a chat to this time?
Oh, I can see Kamikaze might be unmuted. Might get a chat with him. Let us see. And welcome to the broadcast, Mr. Kamikaze. Welcome back as well to Creator Series broadcast. How is the return on the ice?
It's slippery, and thank you.
That just slippery. That's a brief discussion. Actually, it summarizes it quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you like this type of stage?
I like it. It's challenging, and Quinton is really fast on these conditions, and it's his playground. So you just need to play along.
Yeah, it's fair enough. You're known for driving mainly on snow and gravel at insane speeds, but what do you think of the new cars as well? Do they suit your driving style? Do are you able to get to grips with them pretty fast?
Yeah, I like the Polo. I tried the C-String a little bit earlier today, and it feels a little bit heavy for me. But the Polo suits my driving style pretty good, actually. On snow, I tested on snow, and I like it. It's good. I think that is one of my new favorite cars.
Yeah, definitely the Polo with the oversteer on snow is so fun to drive. And indeed, what's your take on like the F2 kit cars briefly as well? I'm probably they're one of your favorite cars, right?
Yeah, F2 kit car is good. I tried the C-String, and I had too little driving time to say anything about it yet. But for out of the box, it feels good.
I mean, there's just one question that I want to ask before we head into the next stage. Obviously, you ended the last season of the Creator Series kind of with that foot injury, and you were hoping to take some time off and recover. Are we having Kamikaze back at 100% for next season?
Yes, I am 95% now, and first time today I'm back into the sim after the last Creator Series race. So still warming up, and I can guarantee you, yeah, I will be back 100%.
Amazing stuff. That's exactly, I think, what we want to hear and what the fans at home want to hear as well.
Yeah, I couldn't summarize it any more than that. Really, I'm worried about the 110%, Mr. Kamikaze, that we might have this season. So there we go. Anyway, it's great to see you driving again, and just show that style for us in the next stages. We're loving it.
We're going 110% for the next stage. Okay.
Noted. We'll write that down, eh?
Good.
Well, we'll let them get on with the stage. Always a pleasure to speak to Kamikaze. Reminds me, in my head, he's the WRC version of Kimi Räikkönen. A man of very few words, but you know exactly what he means when he says them.
Yeah, I'd say he's a cross between Kimi Räikkönen and Jari-Matti Latvala. If you've ever seen an interview from him, he's like sometimes very few words, and then other times he'll write a whole book as an answer, and it's so much detail, so much passion in it, and it's lovely to see. Really, he's got such knowledge, in-depth knowledge of the game, and always sending me like tire graphs and on how many kilometers you should change tires and stuff like that. It's pretty insane information. And on to the next stage we go. I think this is mainly snowless, at least in terms of tire choice. So maybe some brave souls will be able to take the soft compound tires. But as you can see, next to the road, there is still snow, there are still rocks. And that's the thing with these stages. They will push you to their limits in terms of reaction skills, in terms of just car placement skills and confidence in general.
It might be the borderline between bravery and stupidity that we're going to see depending on tyre choices for our drivers on this stage. PJ at the moment, I think, just getting to grips quite literally and metaphorically with the stages as we head over stage number 3 here. Of course, dry tyres as we head through. And I wonder what he's going to do.
Yeah, indeed. This is looking like a dry tyre run, I'd say. They're just got that little bit of extra grip, and in essence you really need that tiny little bit to really carry the speed through the corners. The thing with the studded tires, so you've got two options of tires in the game, the slicks and the studded tires. The studded tires will give you that little bit of slip when you start turning in, so usually a bit of understeer when you're on tarmac, and essentially what can happen really is it can dent your confidence a bit. So if it's a pure tarmac stage, you really want to have that extra confidence and that extra grip to push the limits, and sometimes it can mean up to a 10-second or 20-second difference in real life, as we saw with Adrian Fourmeau going for that inspired tire choice of slicks for the Sunday loop, and it can literally change the results in these rallies.
It certainly can, and it's fascinating how our drivers are dealing with it. You can see the speeds are starting to increase as we head through the third stage. I think confidence is a massive thing that's starting to come back for a few of our drivers.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, for those who haven't practiced the stages before, who at least haven't done a drive through of the stages, I know for Alex Skinner, for example, having just downloaded the game this afternoon, it'll be a wake-up call, let's say. You haven't got 13 corners, you've got about 100 of them per stage. So, you've just got to listen to the pace notes. But the thing that I love about these stages, just talking about them again, is the elevation changes. Monte Carlo, very well known for stages that start in a valley, go all the way up the hill, and then all the way back down the hill. And this stage is one of those exemplary stages of that, where you go all the way up to the col and then back down the other side. We're going right down into the valley here. You can see just in the distance below the snow line, there's no snow on the road whatsoever. And the grip levels and the stage in itself can change so fast. That it can take you by surprise as a driver.
It certainly can. It's fascinating to see it from almost an outside perspective, considering when we're doing the week in, week out events here in the Creator Series, you're only really riding on board or on that bonnet cam from most of our drivers' perspective. But being able to see it from that chase cam, potentially even from the in-front camera that we saw slightly earlier on, it gives a whole new perspective to the environment that we find ourselves in Monte Carlo. And it is absolutely stunning. The team behind the design and everything around it have done a stellar job. And I'm not paid to say that, I'm not endorsed to say that. It's just a beautiful looking game.
Yeah, people that know me will know that I've had a few words to say about some things in the past, but I can honestly say they have nailed it this time with this DLC. I've had so much fun in the past 24 hours just playing the different stages, trying them with different cars, and it's interesting to see actually on this stage how close the pack is. There's Jean-Monch, for example, only 6 seconds behind Contant, so really pushing the limits here. Punju probably about 10 seconds behind, I'd estimate 10 to 15 seconds. So on that tarmac, without all of that ice, the gap shrinks, and now it's become a tarmac rally, and the whole concept changes. You have to start pushing. Punju pushing it a little bit too much, clipping the barrier there. But getting away with it. And these few corners at the end are so difficult because there's gravel on the outside and you just want to extend the corner, but you get punished for it.
That onboard POV that we had with Punji, you can see just how close the rock faces were to the car. I almost was feeling about breathing in as you went through them. That's how narrow it is. Look at that, barely a couple of inches either side of the car, it feels like, as we just saw Hayden running through it for the second time. That's incredibly close. And the margin for error is absolutely minuscule.
Indeed. Hayden running without the helmet there. When do the gloves come off for Hayden as well? He's P6 right now, 27 seconds off. Not too bad, to be honest, for running on a new game. Jean-Monch having winter tires that are absolutely cooked. I think he forgot to change tires in the service area, but only 9 seconds off. That's a brilliant stage, it must be said. The Polo running very well on the tarmac now, so you can see the differences of the handling models can give you an advantage depending on your confidence or driving style. So it will really come down to what stage and what conditions you have, and especially in the rain, the gaps tend to close.
Yeah, well, we'll get another driver in for a quick chat. Let's get the creator behind the WRC Career Series. Let's get Punju in for a chat and see how he's faring.
The map.
Punju, welcome in for the first time in a long while to the commentary box here in WRC Creator Series. How are you finding the new DLC event so far?
Really fun. I love this DLC. I really enjoy Monte Carlo. I'm especially excited for Portugal, but Monte Carlo is super fun, very challenging, but very rewarding when you nail it. So yeah, all really good.
Yeah, how are you finding the new cars and tracks? Are they difficult on the ice? You know, I was surprised when I drove it for the first time. The technical aspects of the stage, they're a lot narrower, and there's a lot more corners and obstacles to watch out for.
Yeah, it's tough. I just realized that I probably just led everybody astray. I don't think we should be on the softs because this is a snowy stage, but I think a lot of people are going to stay on the softs. It's not icy, but there is snow. So I don't know if that means good idea to be on the softs or not, but I think I'm going to take the... I don't know what to do with tires, so I'm going to be honest with you.
Stick with the softs.
Honestly, I feel like I got to stick with the softs because that's what everybody's on, right?
I think the rule is, what's the worst that can happen?
I said that last stage, and then I went off a cliff. So that is what's the worst that can happen. No, honestly, I think handling the car is really fun. I would love to put a little more handbrake force in the setup, obviously. But for now, honestly, it's been really, really good. This Citroen's super, super fun. The 2012-2016 class, I think, is going to be one of the new favorite classes to drive for people. So yeah, I'm liking it a lot.
I think Isa was saying very similar at the start. He loves the new class. He loved how it felt and how it responded. And I think you're probably not the only driver that has shared that feeling as well. I'm sure if we went through and asked a few of the other people, they're really enjoying how they feel. Yeah,
the one thing that I will say, I really like the new Mini Countryman, which is the free car as well. I'm a big Mini fan, in general, so I'm a big fan of it. But a lot of people have told me that it's tough to drive compared to the Citroen, which is tiny. I can feel this Citroen is tiny. In general, these cars, they feel so short. It's right before we got into the crazy aerodynamic, era of rally that we're in right now. So it's a nice little mix between the two. A lot of rear downforce, but nothing in the front. Lots of fun. I'm really excited for it.
Lovely. Well, you got about 30 seconds till you get going again. We'll leave you to it, and best of luck with the final stage here in Monte Carlo.
Thank you.
Amazing stuff. Thank you, Punji. We'll drop you back into the pool of the other drivers. They can have a little chat amongst themselves. But what are we expecting on this final stage? I believe it's final stage, unless I'm completely got my hens in a mix.
Could be. Yeah, it should be the final stage. And it's one of those things where you've got to make a compromise on the tire. Maybe some drivers have run out of tires as well. So, it's really, really tricky to make a tire choice because all you need realistically is maybe 2 to 3 kilometers of ice, and on like an 18-kilometer stage, the time gaps completely reverse themselves. So you'll be losing maybe 2 to 3 seconds on a dry patch of tarmac on the studded tires, but as soon as you get onto that ice with the soft tire, the unstudded tire, the slick tire, you just lose all grip, and then the mistakes come in, the damage, the punctures, etc. So it's really, really technical, both in real life and in the game. But as we've been saying, these cars have quite a bit of grip, so even if you do take the wrong tires, you're at least a little bit somewhat in safe hands.
You have that almost forgiving nature in the car itself. Yes, the road and the conditions may not be that forgiving, but because they're four-wheel drive, they're able to kind of save themselves more forgivingly than some of the other car classes might be able to.
I think they trade that forgiveness for just outright speed, to be honest. The thing is, with the four-wheel drive cars, you get going so fast, you get up to speed so fast that, okay, they might be forgiving, but 190 kilometers per hour, if you make a mistake, you're going off regardless. So it is true, for beginners, four-wheel drive categories can be quite literally forgiving, and they're a good basis to learn from, but you learn habits from the four-wheel drive cars that end up leading you astray in like the F2 kit cars, for example, or the rear-wheel drive cars, where you try and use the power of the car to sort of get you out of danger, but then you realize you don't have four-wheel drive and you end up spinning off or understeering off. So it can be quite technical still to drive these four-wheel drive cars because they are just going so fast.
It is fascinating to watch how our drivers are navigating it, because it is mind-boggling speeds. Yes, I appreciate quite a few of our creators have dabbled in maybe circuit racing and very similar speeds, but when the corners are this narrow, when the track or the road conditions are so treacherous, the speed you're doing actually feels probably about 10 times quicker over the roads like this.
Yeah, the roads like this feel quite claustrophobic, really, because you've got the barrier on one side and the cliff or the rock face on the other side, and you just feel like squeezed into this tiny space, a bit like on Monaco, the racing track. You're just going between barrier and barrier, and with very tight corners, and you're almost afraid to use all of the track. And into these hairpins, for example, you could see Vlembar was much more to the inside than he'd usually be, because just of fear of locking the brakes, going wide, getting a reset penalty, or damaging the car. And Kamikaze and Vlembar having a huge battle on this one, it must be said. So we're back to the Creator Series, folks.
It's like we never left, is it really? It's fascinating to see how our drivers are getting back into the swing of things. Of course, none of them will have kind of fully put the game down over the festive break, maybe with the exception of Kamikaze, who obviously took it through injury and illness. But Vlembar is one of those drivers who not only is mega quick, as he just slightly goes off the road, nothing too major to write home about, but also is mega quick on a controller.
Yeah, it's refreshing, I must say, actually, to see that controllers can be fast, keyboards can be fast. The balance of power, let's say, between the different input devices is a lot more even than on some other titles. So it's encouraging to see. Oh, Vlembar nearly getting caught out there, just turning at the last second to avoid that post. But that is the thing, you've got to avoid all of the obstacles that you can't see in the fog. So a little bit tricky, and you can just see that Kamikaze is eking out that gap a little bit. You can see him with his wheel there just visible to the camera. You can see how his inputs on tarmac are quite smooth still. He's all under control, using the minimum steering angle to not understeer, and just going into the hairpins just a quarter of a turn of the wheel, a little bit of handbrake sometimes, and it rotates ever so easily with this Polo. And that's the driving style of the era. Before the insane aerodynamics of the 2017 cars, you had to be aggressive but not over the top aggressive. And although a lot of people like nowadays the Rally 1 cars and all of that, these cars were equally as popular just for their easiness to drive and the amount of people that could participate in the competitions, the WRC competitions, with them in real life.
It is fascinating to see how the regulations and everything has changed over the course of the years. I mean, you look back to the likes of Group A and quite often what people regard as kind of the best time in rally in modern history. And then you have kind of modern days and even the 2012 to 2016, just how much they've changed in recent years. And I'm actually looking forward to even if we're looking ahead slightly to is it the 2025 regulations or 26 regulations that really opened it up again?
I think it's the 27 regulations. I think they've
yes,
extended it for another year, but I'm not quite sure on that one. Yes, the new regulations coming in. Probably it will be an evolution of the as they've said, an evolution of the Rally 1 concept. But talking about these regulations very briefly, the regulations came in because cars were getting smaller. Hatchbacks were more popular, so they thought, well, let's shrink the car size a little bit. So you had the Fiesta, the DS3, the Mini Countryman, and the Polo predominantly in this car class. And then for the regulations in 2017, they decided to open it up a little bit more. And then you get to Rally 1 concept, where you can make any car shape fit the chassis. You're allowed to morph the design of it a little bit. So it just represents how the car industry has changed in terms of what the trends are, what designs are. It's really interesting to see. Alex Gillen doing really well on that stage. My God, with the tarmac, he's finally found his form.
Certainly has. Quentin taking the rally event, well, at least event 1 of 3 in this afternoon. Vlembar beating Kamikaze. That one was rather unexpected. By a total of 20 seconds as well, comparing the two. Jean Monch as well, up in P4. Punju, Jam, Lyric, Alex Gillen, PJ Turney, and Hayden Gullis, your top 10 over the run. So a couple of unexpected positions there. I mean, I had no doubt that Quentin probably would have topped the standings.
Yeah, well, it takes us a DNF, and you can see with the 10-minute, 11-minute gaps there, there have been quite a few DNFs on this one. It's always frustrating to just slide off of a corner. I've done it myself. You're just sliding at like 2 kilometers per hour, just tiptoeing your way to that cliff, and then all of a sudden you slide off the cliff, and that's the end of that. It happens. That's life, and that's the Monte Carlo in a nutshell, really. And I think next up we're heading to Portugal. So different concept. You've got very high banks and a lot of rocks to avoid. So you've got to nail the line over the crests and all of that. And in real life, the pace notes will have a lot of detail in them to make sure that you carry the maximum speed in all locations.
I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, a lot of our drivers are changing all their cars. Of course, we head to a different car class. We go a couple of years more recent. We head to WRC 17 to 21. I know quite a few people's favourite car category. And I can't believe this. All of our drivers choosing the Citroen C3.
Well, they have to choose the new car, don't they? It's one of those cars that was Citroen's hopes and dreams, and it's, how to put it, it was meant to be a resounding success. It was meant to continue the dominance that had been seen with the DS3, with the C4, with the Zara, and even with the Zara kit car. And it was a tiny bit of a letdown. A design flaw and a lack of ability to change that design once they'd homologated the car meant that they were kind of locked in with a bad concept, with a lack of front aerodynamics. You can see it on the front of the car if you get a view from the outside. It's only got 2 tiny wings on the front. And that just meant that there was a lot of understeer in the car. But in terms of a car, a lot of people love it just because there were quite a few recent liked drivers that drove, including Mads Osberg, Chris Meek, Andreas Mikkelsen, Sebastian Ogier, to name a few, even Sebastian Loeb for a couple of rallies. So, a truly iconic car. And for the moment, the last car in the Citroen dynasty.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear the history. I mean, you've taught me so much of the case of all these broadcasts. It's been delightful to learn about all the history and all the class that's been going on. Before we head into Portugal, though, shall we get someone in for a quick chat? I can see Jam's undeafened. We haven't spoken to him, well, as I say, in a while, probably since last time we headed for the Create Series. We'll pull him in for a little bit of a chat. Jam, welcome in.
Hi.
How did you find Monte Carlo?
It's wild. It's really fun. The ice was expectedly too much of the run was ice, which is crazy. It was fun though. I loved it. The car also feels really good. Slightly more understeered than the DS3 for sure, but or oversteered rather. I keep messing those words up. But yeah, felt good.
Yeah, to quote a certain Top Gear, understeer is when you slide off and hit the tree with the front of the car. Oversteer is when you spin around and hit the tree with the rear of the car.
But what if I hit both sides with the tree? What is that called?
Then you have a chronic four-wheel drift and probably 4 punctures.
But otherwise, yeah, it's been great. Been great.
Have you driven the Portuguese stages for before the broadcast?
No, actually, I decided to literally skip everything. But literally, I mean, I think I spent a couple stages this morning with the DS3 in Sweden or something. But that's it. I did not touch anything. So this is all brand new. I'm doing this all blind.
So you'll need to add one word to your pace notes then, and that's "don't cut."
Right. Yeah. It's a cut. It's not really a cut if you take the marker with you, though, right?
That sounds like a good idea. Let's see your demonstration of it right now as we go into the stages.
Chad, it's been a pleasure to speak. We'll let you get ready for the Portugal stage. Best of luck. That's probably the best quote. Is it really a cut if you take the marker with you?
That's one way of looking at it, to be honest. You know, it only gives you a penalty if you take about 2 wheels over it. So it's possible. You're playing with fire, or with concrete, depending on your definition of the road markers. But it can be actually quite good to see the road markers because they give you a sense of where the apex is. And on a stage which has got a lot of elevation changes and a lot of like crests and mini jumps in it, you can really aim for that marker and clip that marker, and that's when you know you're on the correct line. So, but definitely don't cut in the pace notes, that's for sure, with all of the banks and rocks to avoid. Rally Portugal, one of the fan favourites, and the stage FAF is just iconic.
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly I think we're going there as one of the 4 stages that we're covering this afternoon. That would be almost without exception that we're going there. I have no doubt that Punji's put that in the lineup. And, well, we have got drivers out for the first stage of the run. And Quentin almost with a big mistake right off the bat.
Quentin is seriously quick on these stages. I saw his times before the broadcast. He has dialed in his driving style, at least, and you'll see just a quick right over the crest. He's going to be very, very close to the bank, recovering it. He just about recovered, kept it flat, and that is so tricky to do. You're fighting the car, fighting the oversteer, and then it snaps the other way, but he managed to recover it. That is why he's an eSports World Champion back on the Dirt Rally 2 game. So he is just so in tune with his own driving style and with the cars. He can just do it instinctively, and it's just a dream to watch. But there's so many talented drivers out there, including our drivers that we have on the broadcast, that just watching any of them is just a dream, because they have different lines, different ways of doing it, different driving styles. And you can see for PJ just getting it a little bit wrong there, going over the grass. But interesting driving without the headlights as well. He's had a little bit of an off, a bit of damage there. But this car is quite difficult to drive because it's got a lot of grip, but you need to be aggressive with it to chuck it sideways, because otherwise that understeer pulls you into the banks.
It's probably the most beautiful looking C3 that I've ever seen in my life. And I'll say that about a lot of rally cars. They take kind of the boring regular specs that you see on especially British roads and European roads and just absolutely dial it up to the 9. And was that BJ just showing us that his headlights are still working? He just flashed them quite quickly.
I think it was. He might have an electrical fault though. Who knows? Very common in the rallying world. Sadly for Gregor Munster, he got the DNF in Monte Carlo because of an electrical fault. But you could see there, he just got so close to the rocks there. They're just hidden in the bushes. Oh, Scandinavian flick, lovely. Oh, just getting it a tiny bit too early. But that's the spirit. I love it. Good old fashioned driving style. And we're going. That was the famous FAF junction there, right before the end of the stage. Packed with spectators every single year. Rain, shine, fog, anything, any type of conditions, they will be there to spectate the stages. And if you want to go and have a look at some clips from that, I thoroughly recommend the 2001 season. If you can find the season review of Portugal or just of the rally, the amount of spectators on that stage with Colin McRae going through, it's amazing stuff to watch.
Is absolutely. I think I've seen the clip that you're referring to. At least I remember seeing something similar to it. It is absolutely a spectacle to watch, and I second the comment. Go watch it. Not right now, obviously. Finish watching the DLC.
You've got two screens. You can do it.
Oh, well, not everyone might have two screens. If you have one, stay with us. If you have two, feel free to put it up on your second monitor. Oh, Gillen!
Alex has messed it up on the faff jump. That's very, very easy to do. You've just got to go a tiny bit right, but not too much. You've got 2 banks on the side. And this is what I was saying earlier. This is the last corner of the rally in real life. And so everybody is fully committed to that jump to get the extra points. And that has happened multiple times. And with Contant taking the stage win from Vlembar, Punju doing incredibly well in that stage as well. So, yeah, a lot of people enjoying these stages, that's for sure.
Real interesting mix of tyres as well. We've got 2, 3, 4 all choosing the gravel hards. You've got John Mosh and Sander choosing the mediums, but not actually using them to their full advantage in that opening stage.
I think with 4 stages, you might have to take a set of tyres for 2 stages. So I think what they might have done is elected to go for the hard compound tyres to get used to the car. And then once they're used to it, go onto the mediums and really punch it, as they say. Yeah, interesting.
Well, I think we're going to get potentially Alex Gillen, if I've heard correctly, just a couple of moments. Let's see how he's finding, well, not only WRC, but the FAF stage. Alex, welcome in. Welcome to your first endeavours on WRC. How's it going?
Not the best. After the highs of the final stage of Monte Carlo, only being a 10th off in 2 sectors, being the best overall, but only about three or so seconds back at the end of the stage, and then in that one literally got lost. I literally went the wrong way and cost myself loads of time. So I think I dropped about 25 seconds in 1 sector. So that was always going to end badly. But my objective was to not finish last, and I've failed so far in this rally. So it's all up from here, surely.
Yeah, you haven't got it too easy for yourself. You're driving on one of the most complicated locations with arguably the fastest or one of the fastest cars in the game with a lot of downforce. So you've got to make those split-second decisions without being able to know the corners beforehand and going over all of these crests. How much of a difficulty is it for you coming from the Formula 1 game, for example?
Well, yeah, I do think that my best rally's behind me. You know, a bit of dry tarmac, that's a bit of me. So, yeah, we're heading into some unknown conditions here. Hopefully I can adapt reasonably well. But yeah, it's super difficult. As you said, it's a tiny mistake. I mean, I had terminal damage in the first rally and in the first stage. And it was just a small mistake, tapping the wall, but then off the mountain I go, and that's it, terminal damage. So, yeah, it's not easy to adapt. It's a very different game, but it's great fun. I'm enjoying it a lot.
He's underestimating his skills, I'll just say that much, TK.
He is. I've seen a lot of people do worse in their first time endeavours into WRC. I think if you speak to Tom when he's got his rig back up and running again, he had a rather trial by fire introduction to WRC.
Oh, well, I'll take that then. I'm not doing too badly. I just want to not bid it in this stage, not get a 10-minute penalty, and then we'll see. Well, in this rally, sorry, and then we'll see where I finish. But not a good start. I'll see if I can do a bit better in the next one.
Amazing. Well, best of luck for the next couple of runs, and we will be watching and seeing how it goes for you.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much. Well, hopefully it's all uphill from here for Alex Gillen. Hopefully more metaphorically than actually in the rally. Hopefully there will be some downhill for him to try and put his foot to the floor.
Well, on these stages, you get a bit of everything, don't you? So that's near enough guaranteed. It's just whether he'll be on all 4 wheels or maybe on the roof or a combination of the above. So, you know, you can do it with style or you can do it fast or you can do it a bit of both. It's up to you.
I really hope that we don't see many drivers on their roofs, but it would be quite nice to watch it from an outside camera perspective, because often we're watching from inside the car, we're seeing how terrifying it is, but you kind of see the earth the other way up. But from seeing the cars on their roofs, it'd be quite fascinating to see just them sliding down a hill somewhere.
Can also say the level of details on the underside of the cars with all of the exhaust and all of that is quite fascinating as well. I'm not saying tip the car over onto the roof, but the appreciation has to be there for the designers of the cars, especially when watching the replays, for example, or straight over the faff jump in the other direction. I must say that's a huge introduction to this stage. But yeah, just from having maybe can't confirm or deny having observed my car on its roof. Very good design, I must say. And you can see Punju just pushing flat out. The thing with these cars, the aerodynamics, you have to drive it a little bit more aggressively and trust the grip, because the faster you go, the more aero you have. And you've just got to drive it into the corners, go very, very deep on the brakes, trail braking, even on gravel, and just trust that the car will rotate. Maybe a tiny bit of handbrake, but the slower you go, the more difficult it becomes to drive.
Now, I might be completely wrong in saying this. We can hear Punju's engine almost spooling up as he's off the throttle and just kind of like wanting to go again. Now, this might be, is this anti-lag that we're hearing, or is this something completely different?
Yeah, the anti-lag is quite aggressive in terms of the sound. It still is nowadays with the Rally 1 cars, in fact, even a bit more. What I think you can hear also is just aggressive downshifting. You want to use the engine braking on gravel, so you'll downshift as soon as you think you're not going to redline the engine, and that way you can ease off on the brakes a little bit so you can get a bit more turning ability. It's quite technical gravel driving, to be fair, and if you don't get it right, it immediately backfires on you. But yeah, these cars known quite, fondly for the anti-lag, for the aggressiveness of the engine sound. I remember when I spectated them in Greece, just hearing them come up all the way up the valley was just mesmerizing before they even got to you, before you even saw them. So yeah, this car, possibly the least aggressive sounding of the WRC 2017 regulation cars, but definitely still very, very loud, very sort of exuberant in the way that it presents itself.
I mean, I've only been fortunate enough to hear rally cars at one event, and that was Goodwood Festival of Speed about 6 months ago or so, and you could hear them as you're walking up Goodwood Hill, and they were probably a good kind of 100 metres, probably even half a mile away as you're walking up this hill, and you just hear them ripping through the forest, and it's such a great noise to listen to.
Yeah, because normally the cars have, let's say, a 4-cylinder engine, turbocharged. That's usually what rally teams go with. They do sound a lot more sort of, let's say, just like a road car, effectively, but more aggressive. And you don't get that high-pitched sound normally that you're used to with endurance racing cars or formula cars. So it's a completely different sound. And with that sort of deep sound of the engine, whoa, Jean-Marc just getting a complete snap and correcting and going the other way, and it just span round on him with the weight transfer. And he's missing a door there, which I'm not sure the FIA will be vaguely happy about that. But weight reduction, it's fine. And that lovely, lovely Sébastien Ogier livery. Sadly, the one time in which Ogier did not win the championship with this car, he had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this car, it must be said. Just having quite a few times where it was a tiny, tiny bit off the pace, but Sébastien Ogier just trying to compete with the others, making quite a famous mistake in Turkey, just clipping one of the anti-cut markers and completely destroying the driving, the steering. And Kamikaze has had an adventure here. He's missing a tire on the rear. I think he's missing 2 tires actually, which is not great. I don't think he's going to be recovering from that one easily, but he has probably crashed on one of the jumps. That is my best sort of scenario for him right now.
I was about to ask, has something happened to Kamikaze? Because I was looking at the progression board on the left-hand side. You could see he was rather back from the majority of our drivers, which is very unlike Kamikaze in himself. And I think he has just thrown in the metaphorical towel.
Yeah, you've got no grip whatsoever. Hayden just judging that junction quite right. You've got to spot the arrows for the turn-in. If you mishear the pace note, it can be quite tricky. And the cars go so fast that if you make a mistake, sometimes you just can't recover it. And especially if you crash after a jump, then you just get a puncture and that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch Hayden going through. Obviously, he's got a little bit of damage just from where he's maybe caught a rock or caught a bit of the sidings of the road here. But the boot latch is loose. He's enabled DRS for the Citroen C3.
Yeah, it reminds me of a funny story actually about this car. In 2019, they were trialing a new aerodynamic package, which sadly they couldn't get onto the car because the FIA wouldn't homologate it. But the aerodynamics package had a lot more, as Hayden just going for a spin there, just clipping the bank. You can see how easy it is to make a mistake here. He's driving backwards. He's doing a Lightning McQueen. It's no worries. And all the way back onto the road. Lovely recovery. 10 out of 10. He's the winner of this stage, even if he doesn't get the fastest time. What a beautiful way of doing it. And just no missing concentration right there. Didn't even make a face about it. As Punju all the way up on the bank. You've just got to push the limits on these stages, but it's so difficult. Just going back briefly to the story, they were trying a new aerodynamic package, and they had made new front aerodynamics, which were a lot bigger. But to test the balance of the car, they literally just lifted the rear wing up so that it was nearly a 45-degree angle on the testing photos. It looked very, very weird. But the boots there of the car just flailing about in the wind reminded me of that story. I'm sure you can find pictures on your favorite browser if you want to go and have a look at that. But a little anecdote there from the WRC world.
I'd love to just picture that in my mind. I mean, I've not seen the images, and I will be going to search them later. The fascinating to see is Punji, I think, is the first one across the line. That is an amazing stage time for Punji.
I'm wondering why Contan is so far back. He was leading from as he had to puncture as well as he crashed. It is very, very easy to do, and especially with people like Contan always wanting to get that last tenth of a second. Well, there you go. He has indeed crashed into a tree. He's done a Chris Meek, which is very, very unfortunate. But he is missing a tire. Look at that rear left. It's completely gone.
So two of the fastest drivers in this lobby, or well, I don't. Well, they're all fast in this lobby. I'm not going to put anyone down here, but two very quick drivers having two very big accidents that almost knocked them out of contention. Kamikaze did retire, and Quantum there losing a considerable amount of time after losing a tyre.
Welcome to Portugal. That's all I'll say. This stage is known for throwing a spanner in the works of drives that are pretty comfortable otherwise. You've had a load of change of positions in this stage in real life, and rallies being decided on this stage. So it's not surprising that a few drivers would get caught out, and it's a stage that you have to treat with respect in both directions, and you've really got to know, one, where you're going, and two, how much grip you have, because when you're going over these crests and you do a small jump, you lose control of the car, and there's nothing you can do if you're going in the wrong direction. But Punju winning the stage there with PJ in second, Jean-Marc in third. Lovely, lovely stuff, it must be said. Alexander is in the Fiesta, I've just noticed.
Oh, so he is. Must have decided to change his car right at the last second. But so that does give us a mix of cars. That's what I like to see. Not everyone just sticking with the same thing. But interesting to note. Again, I'm going to mention tyres because I always like to try and kind of break down the mentality of some of our drivers. Punju choosing the hard. I think it was the four drivers behind him, all on the mediums. So I think they will switch now for the final two stages, if memory serves me correctly, and we will see maybe some slower time to the drivers in the middle, maybe some faster time to the drivers that started on hards.
Yeah, the tyres can be quite fundamental to how the car drives, because often if you take the softer compound tyre, you'll get a lot of oversteer from the start. It'll be very, very grippy, and then you'll get a ton of understeer. Whereas if you go for the harder compound tyre, maybe it's a more balanced car. It gives you a bit more consistent grip, but less grip. So it's kind of a trade-off to sort of mull your mind over at the start of every stage. And some drivers have different strategies, let's put it that way.
It is fascinating to see, and it's real mentality that I think quite a few of our drivers are maybe having to put into contention. They haven't necessarily had to think about tyre strategies in WRC before. I know we can probably speak to the mentality of Hayden and probably Alex Gillen as well, who are relatively new entries into the world of rally. So they haven't had that forethought, that practice with the different tyre compounds, and that could be potentially their own undoing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult to adapt to a new set of circumstances. In the Formula One game, for example, they spend multiple sort of practice races figuring out the right compounds, the right strategy, when exactly to change, or what happens if a safety car comes out. Here, if you miss a tire or you get a puncture, well, you're compromised on the strategy right from the get-go. So, it's a different style of doing things, but still the same thought process, let's say. So once they've got it figured out, they'll know exactly what to do in the rest of the stages, really.
I mean, they certainly will. It's going to be fascinating to see how our drivers contend with the final two stages here in Portugal before we head to the third and final rally, which I'm not even sure if they know where they're going quite yet. Oh, no, they do. They do know where they're going because they've had to fill out the broadcast sheet. So there's no point spotting on the broadcast. We head to Latvia for our final runs. So they may have that in the back of their mind already. I think probably speaking to some of the more experienced drivers on the metaphorical grid.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, Latvia is one of those rallies where you look at it and think, oh yeah, that seems simple. It's mostly straight lines, and then you go, yeah, the roads are bumpy, there's lots of chicanes and lots of banks and trees to crash into. And then you realize it's actually one of the most complicated rallies in the game. So, I think there's quite a few drivers that will get caught out by that. But again, one of my favorites as well, just because one of the things in the new stages, I must say, is the bumpiness of the roads and sort of the little details, as we see Alexander just getting it wrong there, just clipping the anti-cut marker, as Jam suggested. It didn't really go well for him, but as you can see, just the car getting chucked around by the bumps. And I've found that as the updates have come for this game and the stages have been updated, the stages get more and more detailed, and I'm loving the not only the force feedback that it gives you, but also just the feeling from the car losing momentarily the grip, and you've got to really think about it. Oh, reverse entry, just clipping the post, Ken Block style right there. I love it.
That was absolutely beautiful. Just seeing the car almost sent in backwards for many degrees there, and he's managed to get the car going.
Wrong way.
Oh, he's gone the wrong way.
It's so easy done until you spot the tape, and then you realize, oh, I shouldn't be going in this direction. It's so easy to miss the markers, and you want to follow the road, right? You want to follow that tarmac road, and you don't think that you're going to go back onto gravel. But there you go, it does happen, and it happens to the best of us. Quentin now with 4 tires on the car, just showing us how quickly you can go through these corners. But you've got to really, really be careful. Straight into a bush right there, just clipping, getting some foliage attached to the side of the car. A little souvenir, I guess.
It's like our drivers all in the Wizard of Oz. Oh, another clip, another sideways moment for Quentin. Just managing to recover it nicely. But as I was saying, it's like our drivers in the Wizard of Oz. They're all trying to follow that yellow brick road.
You've got the yellow gravel on the road. Maybe they're just staring at the road and not looking at where they need to go. But yeah, if Quentin didn't have his webcam there, I'd be saying we've got an imposter in the lobby. But indeed, he's uncharacteristically making quite a few mistakes in here. But I know Quentin, he loves to push the limit. He loves to drive like that exuberant, absolutely perfect corner. There's not much more you can get out of that. That was brilliant. And that's the kind of risks that you take to drive fast, and sometimes it doesn't work. And that's what I love about this stage, is you can really experiment with your driving. It will go wrong, guaranteed, but you can have so much fun while doing it.
It's like he's made these mistakes, but if you look at the timing sheet on the left-hand side, or the progression chart on the left-hand side, I think he's still in P2. It's only Vlembar that stands in front of him at the moment.
1.5 seconds. He's made 2 big mistakes, and he's still in contact with the lead. That just demonstrates like how high the level is with some of these drivers, and that's the risk that you take, isn't it? Do you want to drive consistently? Do you want to drive fast? Is PJ going to do another Scandinavian flick? Not quite. Contact on his roof. He's not very happy with that at all. And it's all gone wrong in Portugal after a dominant display in Monte Carlo. Maybe the road order, the road position, something like that. I'll make an excuse for him. There you go.
Every good thing has to come to an end, and it did for Quentin there. I think he'll be wanting to try and bounce back stronger when we head to Latvia. PJ is still on his mission to throw this car in sideways at every single turn that presents itself.
He is driving a lot like Colin McRae right now, just chucking it in on the handbrake and just let's go for it. I do love that. And there's just some stages where you go, this has the just perfect set of circumstances for going in, turning on the handbrake. I can demonstrate right now on the handbrake and, straight into the turn, just reverse entry. You love to see it, to be honest. But I'm surprised at how fast the drivers are. They're all, most of them getting to the finish, some of them DNFing with tires. But look at those gaps. Hardly anything for a new stage. That's brilliant.
Looks like Punju might have kept the same tires because he wasn't hard in the first 2. He's gone for hards again.
That's an interesting one. Going for the power stage glory at the end. That's a good strategy, to be fair. Maybe it's also the balance of the car. Maybe he's tested the car and figured out that the hard tires feel better, or the harder compound feels better on the car. Let's have a chat with him, actually. Maybe ask him about that.
Stronger.
Back in the commentary booth just for a little chat. We've noticed you've been liking those hard compound tires for the moment. A great time in that stage. Any reason why you're not testing the fresh Pirellis?
Waiting for the final stage to use the mediums, which I'm putting on right now. I was going to go hard for the first 2, mediums for the second 2. But then the first 2 went so well. I was like, wait a second. I should stay on this and go for a power stage. And so that's what I'm doing. And we'll see how this goes. I know Vlembar is on a different tire strat than me. I have like somehow a chance to win an event, so I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go for it and see what I can do.
You've heard it here first. We did not jinx him; he jinxed himself.
Yeah,
I did.
It's a very rare situation that you get a competitor jinxing themselves or placing the commentator's curse on themselves. But all the time, folks, it's about 8:45 in the evening on the 28th of January.
Hey, you know what? Let's hope I don't.
For once, not my responsibility. It's good, but you seem to have a lot of confidence in the car. Maybe the aerodynamics helping out. How easy or difficult is it to drive a rally car with aerodynamics?
I think depends on the kind of aerodynamics. I think the modern ones, like the modern rally ones, are a lot harder because it's got so much front downforce as well. It's like a Formula One car on dirt, But this thing, it's got basically nothing up front. Like you look, it's got a couple canards and the wing that's about as thick as Beef Wellington. So I don't know. There's not much of the front to go with. So all you're doing is just whipping this thing around and praying, which I find to be a lot of fun, honestly. So I really like this style.
I know this is not relevant to WRC in any way, shape, or form, but I'm concerned at how thin your Beef Wellingtons are.
I think that's pretty thick front bumper. I don't know. That seems like a pretty big Beef Wellington to me, if you ask me. I don't know, Gordon. Go after him. That's just what I've seen on the TV commercials.
Well, I'll take your word for it. I think you've got about 20 seconds before you need to go do some driving, so I'll let you off the hook, and best of luck with the final stage.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was not something I was expecting to hear, but there we go.
He was the one that compared it to Beef Wellingtons, and I'm fairly sure they're quite a thick chunk of meat.
Yeah, well, from having watched Gordon Ramsay quite a bit, it's not. I mean, the Citroen always was joked about a little bit for being quite a chunky car, let's call it. So maybe it's painted bright reds, to be fair. So maybe there's something to do with that. If you coat it with a little bit of gravel on top, maybe it looks exactly like that. I'm reaching here, I guess.
Gordon's just yelling for the lamb sauce. Don't worry about it. We'll head into the final stage here in Rally Portugal.
Indeed, yeah. And here we go with Punju. The auto jinx, hopefully not in effect, straight into the bank there. Hopefully that's his only mistake. This is the whole FAF stage, so stage 4 FAF. So you've got about 11 kilometers, I think, of stage. So you've got to really settle into this one. It goes up the valley, so a lot of banks and a lot of hairpins and tight corners. And then progressively you come out onto the top of the hill and go along the top of the hill right to the end of the stage, where you dip down into a small valley up to those double hairpins that is that famous junction, and then onto the last jump. 2 very, very big jumps toward the second half of this stage. Just want to point out also for Punju, but for other people as well, that some of the reason this car is so nice to drive is it's the regulations. The 2017 regulations had a central differential, which gave you that tiny bit more predictability compared to the Rally 1 cars. And he is quite correct in saying that the Rally 1 cars have a lot more downforce on the front, but also that lack of central differential gives you a bit more snappiness with the Rally 1 cars. So that's possibly one of the reasons why he thinks it's a bit more difficult to drive. Hayden just clipping that inside bank, which just left him offline for the next corner and not able to brake, and then straight into the next bank. I don't think he's got a puncture, but he's understeering quite a bit now. Hopefully nothing wrong there.
It looked like a little bit of a bump on the rear right, but no major damage for Hayden. I mean, there's been no facial expressions on that man's face, so I have to take it that no news is good news in this situation. Kamikaze is always rather neutral expression. He's just focused on getting that car to the end, or at least the finish line, with least damage as possible and as quick as possible.
I think Kamikaze could be rolling down the side of the mountain, in VR or something with a motion rig, and still have no expression on his face. He's so concentrated and so committed to the driving and to feeling everything, so he can get the perfect time and the perfect car position. That it's mesmerizing to watch him drive, because he's just on it all the time. Contan's the same, really. He'll maybe vent a little bit of frustration if he rolls the car, but if he's still driving, he will literally just stay focused. And we've got everything in this lobby. Drivers that are more like exuberant, here for the spectacle, and drivers that are here to win. And for Contan, Vlembar, Punju, and Kamikaze, they will be wanting to win this last stage, that's for sure.
Certainly will. It's not just an ego thing here. They want to prove they're the fastest. I mean, Punju has said that he wants to try and declare it at the moment. According to the progression chart on the left-hand side, Quentin seems to be the fastest driver over the course so far as we approach about the halfway mark, which just reminds us how incredibly quick Rally Portugal is at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Gravel rally, and you'd think with all of the hairpins that it would be quite a slow one, but you do have these sections on the top of the hill where it's mainly maintenance roads for these wind turbines and stuff like that. But the roads have existed for quite a while. But it's just that in some places they've been widened quite a bit. I think that'll be a corner cutting penalty for Kamikaze. But you can see it just winds over the crest of the hill. So you've got a lot of jumps, a lot of blind crests, and you've just got to pick up the speed and hope that the car remains quite good. Content, I think, has quite a big lead there, as you can see, to Punju at least. So it's looking pretty good. Content using all of the roads. He's offline though, into the bank. Oh, that's a big hit, and straight the way around, recovering it 360. Incredible stuff, and even more, no puncture whatsoever.
It looked like no puncture, but actually it looked like the front left looked rather flat. It might have been a visual thing, it might have been an artifact on my screen, but it did look like the front left was somewhat deflated. I might be completely incorrect on that. Yeah, I am.
He's okay. Yeah, I think he's okay. He'll be worried about a puncture because not always are you told that you have a puncture straight away. But that car looks okay. Surprisingly strong is the Citroen. It's taken quite a few impacts in its career, but that one was one of the ones it gets away with, I guess. And you can see just a little bit of understeer there creeping in, going downhill. That was one of the problems they had with the car in trying to test new suspensions for it, is in heavy braking it would have a tendency to break the traction on the front. And as we see down into the Pfaff junction here, just onto this little bit of tarmac with the McRae, and I think that's a tribute to Craig Breen as well there, painted onto the tarmac. So lovely to see those tributes right there, and for them represented in the game. And it used to be that there was a rock with a flag and Colin McRae painted on it somewhere before that on the stage as well. So a lot of rally fans present on this stage, and a lot of memories.
Very much so, and it's so nice to see little details like that added in to games that kind of simulate it. You quite often see it in the F1 games. I think there was a memoriam to Niki Lauda back in Monaco a few game titles past, and to see it in WRC as well. The little details that you quite often see on the courses and everything. It's a lovely little touch. They don't necessarily have to add, but they've taken the time to do that.
Indeed, and let's see how our drivers fare with the Pfaff jump. Here we go, Contant. Can he get it right? Perfectly judged. Lovely, lovely stuff. Flat out. Down to fourth gear approximately through here, just clipping the bank like so many drivers have done, and up to the finish line. Contant is going to take a storming victory here as Punju comes up to the same jump. Will he take it correctly as well? A little bit to the outside. Oh, the front of the car just diving up with the lack of aerodynamics, maybe a bit of damage. Just clipping the bank as well, double clip of the bank, get it to the line. But even if you've got a puncture, just punch the throttle, keep it going, cross the line for P2. Incredible stuff.
You can see the reaction that he has on his face at the moment. He is ecstatic with that result. He almost lost it at the massive jump. You could see he was just not necessarily lined up correctly. He just clipped that left-hand side barrier or the bushing around it, but managed to keep it going, managed to keep that car pointing in the correct direction.
Hayden's doing donuts. I saw the wheel rotated, and I was like, something's going on here before the game even loaded his view. And he is definitely wearing out those tires, Michelin tires on the car. Sorry, I apologize. I forgot it was Michelin's on this car. But yeah, they're testing, tire testing, let's call it.
He doesn't need them anymore. We head to a completely different rally. We head to a completely different car class as well. So those tires effectively are out the window now.
It's good showboating for the cameras, though. You know,
it is
crowd pleaser, crowd favorite, and it reminds me a lot of the Gilles Panisse donut in Catalonia in 2002, where he just decided on a whim, oh yeah, I've got a 30-second lead going into the last few stages. I'll just do a donut and casually win the stage as well.
Well, Punji has won it by 10.5 seconds back to Vlemba. Alex Gillen in P4. That's a fantastic result for Gillen, beating out Contin Jean, and of course Hayden Kamikaze as well, who I think had that earlier incident in the first stage. PJ not even making it to the end.
Yeah, I think PJ maybe crashed on one of the jumps as well. It can be so difficult to take them flat out, and I think PJ trying to gain back time just went over there, clipped the side of the. It's so easy actually to get clip one side of the bank and then get ricocheted into the next bank, and then you get a double puncture, and that's the end of your rally basically.
Very much so. It's so unfortunate so easy to happen. I mean, I've done it in practice. I've done it in kind of a little pre-show where we've done, just trying to test the conditions, see what our drivers are about to expect. Sometimes I do that over a weekend, but yeah, it's unfortunate for PJ there. Hopefully, he'll come back stronger in Latvia. And speaking of Latvia, do you want to run us through what car class or what we're expecting from the car class that they're taking here?
I do not have that information up in front of me.
1600s. I'll tell you
Super
what it is.
1600s. Oh yes, the front wheel drive high revving cars. That is going to be brilliant. Yeah, they're very lightweight, and you've got to keep the power band up, and you've just got to keep the wheel turned and just the foot flat to the floor. Basically, a very dynamic car class, and one that's quite special to a lot of people, I think.
I think Latvia as well is a very special stage. We were exceptionally lucky to be able to get a preview of it when we went to Goodwood Festival of Speed. We got to, or you got to drive it earlier. I got to commentate over Dirk's run of the stage. Fantastic to see, and it was like really lucky experience for us to be able to experience that and see the stage that we knew was coming out months in advance.
Yeah, embarrassment for me as I crashed on my preview of the stage. Just went straight into a bank because in Latvia you have quite a few ditches on the side of the road. So I just put a wheel in the ditch, clipped the whole rear end of the car, rotated 360 around, kept on driving. Everything was good. I didn't get sent the footage of it, which is a disappointment, to be fair. But maybe one day I'll see my recovery. But yeah, such a technical stage, really, because you get some flat out sections where you've got a long straight with chicanes, and you've got to really manage your braking, and even the bumpiness makes it difficulty in a straight line. And then you get some fast flowing corners where you go over crests. You've got to avoid banks and ditches and stuff. So it's a lot of risk versus reward, and especially in a low powered car class, you want to just straight line it, but the stage does not want you to straight line it.
There's lots of opportunities for mistake. I mean, I saw that in Dirk's run and how easy it was to just venture off left or right a little bit, maybe try and extend the road course. And unfortunately, most of the time, as Kel Britty is, or I apologize, I've got that name wrong, I said in chat, it's so fast, but you hit something and you crash big time. That is probably a great explanation of what we're about to see.
Great explanation of rally in a nutshell, yeah. I think. You try your best, you go fast, and in the end it doesn't even matter because you're in a wall somewhere.
Very much so. I wonder if we're able to get someone in for chat. I don't know how long we've got before we head till Latvia. Let's get someone in quickly. Let's get Vlembar in. We haven't spoken to him this evening quite yet. Vlembar, just very quickly, before we head to our final rally. First of all, welcome in. Hope your new year as well. How did you find the first two stages of this new DLC?
Absolutely fantastic. Monte Carlo was very interesting. I don't know how the others had the impression, but for me it felt like the ice was way more slippier than on I'm gonna call it the original stages. So it was really tricky. And yeah, I mean, what can I say about Portugal? Just a fantastic, iconic stage.
I think everybody had the same sort of impression of Monte Carlo, with the elevation changes making it really difficult on the ice. And for Portugal, it seemed, at least to us, that a lot of people were having problems with the banks. So maybe the same problems in Latvia with these cars?
No, surely not. But yeah, where you mentioned it, the banks on the farther stage is really interesting. That's a big difference to a lot of the other rallies, because yeah, I mean, I felt it a few times. If you just clip them a bit, you just get either spun, or I also got flipped once. So interesting.
Yeah, well, we'll see you drive flat out in about 20 seconds time. So we'll say good luck to you, and hopefully with these cars, we know you like the front wheel drive cars. So show us your best, as they say.
I will enjoy it.
Thank you so much for that. Wow. let's see what our drivers have got in store for us now. We head, as you said, for the Super 1600s. Every single driver, if my sheet is correct, choosing the Peugeot 206. Unless we see just someone taking a completely random car like we saw out in Rally Portugal. Who knows what we're about to experience?
Yeah, it'll be fine no matter what car they take. These cars are so much fun because they're so lightweight. They just end up skipping along the bumps. You know, it's like that speedboat that's carrying a little bit too much speed on rough waters, just bouncing along the water like that. It can really catch you out sometimes because you want to be braking as late as possible, especially on the default setups. Everybody running default setup on these stages, so you're probably going to have to use a lot of the handbrake once again. And so, you know, there's a lot of technicality even for sort of beginner cars, if we could call them that. There's a lot of time to be won and lost everywhere, effectively.
It's actually a really interesting analogy that you just gave, the speedboat skipping across the water, because very similarly, if you've got one minor mistake, those speedboats end up going nose first into the water, which isn't exactly where they want to be.
That's an interesting rhetorical question there. What's more forgiving, a tree or water? I'm not sure.
The object hitting it, I suppose.
Hopefully neither, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
but you never know. As you can see here, just having to dab the brakes a little bit to get the car turned in. One of the tips that I usually give drivers that are new to rallying is that you can often keep your foot flat on the throttle, or at least partially on the throttle, and just dab the brakes to avoid the understeer that you get sometimes in the corners with these front-wheel drive cars. So quite a bit technical, and you can see Punju just dabbing the brakes on the crest to avoid the car just steering out wide into the trees.
Quite an interesting not attempt, but I've never really looked at it that way. Obviously, I'm a complete novice when it comes to WRC, and I'm the first to throw my hands up at that. And even just learning a little tidbit of information like that makes me want to kind of hop back on, try again, and see if I can improve my own run times.
It takes I think it was Richard Burns that had a clip of him explaining it. Takes a while to get used to, doesn't it? Is what he said. When you failed, or when you didn't do the lesson as he wanted to in his game.
Yes.
And it takes a while to get used to, and that's with every rally game that you play. And you know, it's one of those techniques that you just have to think of subconsciously. It will take you a while to get used to it. And then once it clicks, it's just like, oh, I can go into this corner 20 kilometers per hour faster, just stab the brakes, keep to the inside. And unlike Punju, who's going to meet a bank there if he's not careful, just about avoiding it by about a half a meter, I'd say. You know, you've got to use all of the track here, that's for sure.
I'm going to say this again. I said it in Monte Carlo, and I'm going to say it again in Latvia. How beautiful this looks. The shadow of the car, the trees that you're approaching, the clouds in the sky. I would believe this is dashcam footage.
Yeah, indeed. I must admit, I'm always impressed by the advances of video game graphics, but especially in rally graphics. You know, the quantity of trees, the realisticness of the you know, the foliage and everything. It really does bring a new aspect to it, and also a hindrance as well, because sometimes on the apexes of corners, if you're in a car that's particularly low down and you've got like a bush on the inside, you can't see where you're going. And so it adds that jeopardy that you have in real life. As Punju meets a tree that does not want to budge, he met the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, and the immovable object won that time out.
Yeah, unfortunately did. And I wonder how much damage there is to the front end of that Peugeot, and probably just a dented bonnet, not too much to the wheel casing itself. Alex Gillen making his way through as well. The grid very close together. You can see it on the left-hand side of each of the respective screens how close together all of our drivers are on these Latvian stages.
Yeah, I was going to say about the damage, it's okay, it's a 206. You'll be able to find spare parts in literally every scrapyard possible at this point. But yeah, it's the front-wheel drive sort of category that brings the times closest together, because generally people that are more used to circuit racing will have an easier time getting a fast time out of a front-wheel drive car, because especially some of the games which have like production vehicles in them, you'll have to get used to the understeer of front-wheel drive, so they'll know how to deal with it a little bit. And so people like Alex Gillen will be able to get much closer to the front of the pack like they are right now.
It's so nice to see all of our drivers close together. I don't know which way this is going. I can probably make a prediction It's not going to go the way of Hayden Gullis after we saw him having a little mini reset earlier, threw his hands in the air in somewhat frustration, but everybody else so close together.
Indeed, yeah, Jean Manche having a stonking run this time. Look at that. He is absolutely just out the front there. I'm not sure if he's even leading the rally at this point, but yeah, he's definitely at one with these cars. That's something that you see in rally, is that everybody has a speciality, let's call it, and they can just drive that one car absolutely spectacularly. And for some drivers, they just love front-wheel drive. Other people love rear-wheel drive, and that's the beauty of this game and of previous rally games of the Codemaster series, is the diversity of cars. I've always loved that, and it's so good to have a game where you can just hop from one to the other in 30 seconds.
I think you can say that about quite a few of the Codemasters and EA games in years gone past. It's been so nice just having a lot of cars to hop into, regardless of what you're feeling, how bad your afternoon might be going. If it's one car class that hasn't necessarily agreed with you, another one could happily step up and take its place. Gallus will come across the line to round out our drivers, and I think he'll be happy to see the timing being.
Indeed. Oh, Jam, there you go. You've been corrected by Jam right there. Jam not having the best of stages. I know his pace is better. And Jean Manche does indeed take a stage win there from Quentin. So once again, a French 1-2 right there with Kamikaze rounding out the provisional podium.
1.081 seconds between the two of them, and a difference of tyres as well. Keep an eye on Quentin, because I think when he puts the super softs on, he could be dominating.
Yeah, I know how fast he is in rallycross with front-wheel drive cars, so that's ominous, very, very ominous. He just has the technique, he's used to maximizing a track, for example, where you have to use all of the width of the road, and Latvia is one of those places where you just have to maximize. Even if you go onto the grass a little bit, you just got to carry the speed through the corners, and it makes such a difference.
It does indeed. It's fascinating to see. There were slightly differing lines from a few of our drivers there as well. They may have been over or under confident as they made their way through, but as a general rule of thumb, they were all fairly consistent. There wasn't any major accidents. I think we'll see a crash or two step up in the next few stages as drivers find that confidence and try and find that line of confidence, because the minute you step over it, that's where you find the banking.
Yeah, usually it goes like this with the front-wheel drive cars. You start turning a little bit like the four-wheel drive cars and you go, oh, that feels pretty good. And then at some point during the stages, you figure out, hang on a minute, if I turn a little bit more and be a lot more aggressive with the throttle, I can go twice as fast. And at that point, it becomes utter chaos because drivers just go into every single corner flat out. And that's when you have to realize that it's a lot more calculated than you think, the front-wheel drive category. So I think we'll see in stage 2 a lot of drivers pushing the limits, maybe over pushing the limits a bit more.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. We've got 3 more stages going. It felt like this evening has absolutely flown by. We've done 2 rallies already, 4 stages apiece, and we're pretty much halfway through Latvia at the end of the next stage.
Yeah, well, if FAF was anything to judge by, Citroën Airways is indeed departing. But yeah, it has gone by, and I think it's because we've had such a good time so far with the cars and stages. I enjoyed driving it, but I'm also enjoying watching it, to be fair. The angles that they can get with some of these cars and the speed they can carry through is mesmerizing. So, whether you enjoy watching drivers drive this game or indeed playing it yourself, there's everything on offer now.
There's one thing I'm really looking forward to, and this is probably slightly outside of what we have on the broadcast from week to week. And in sim racing especially, there's this massive collection of photographers that can get such amazing photos out of games, not only in Rally, but in on and every other game that exists on the market. I can't wait to see people that they put their creative skills to use, just the jumps that we're going to see out of FAF, and some of the ideas that people come up with for these shots.
I must admit, I'm not a pro at the photo mode in this game, but I do know that you can get some spectacular shots from it. And, the little attentions to detail like that is brilliant to see, to be honest, because there are so many different fans of rallying that just want to casually play a game and get some photos or get some screenshots. And, oh, Hayden is completely stuck. That's not gone well. I think there's a little bit of cutting going on there, and he's just managed to get completely beached on the side of a road there. I'm not exactly sure where he's... Oh, is he facing the wrong way? I'm not sure what he's doing there. I'm not sure what's gone on, because he's been put back in the good direction and he's driven straight up the bank there. I think he's gotten a little bit lost or something there. I'm not quite sure.
Is he
retiring the car?
Again? I think he's going for donuts again.
He's doing the Ferrari strategy of retiring the car.
We are checking. We are being told what he's doing. Oh, here we go. We have Gillen reversing. This is something, if you tuned in to our... Sorry, I've got us reversing. Apologies. Getting my G's mixed up there. If you tune in to any of our F1 creator series quite often on a Saturday, especially if you're watching on the EA Sports WRC channel, if you watch on a Saturday along, Hayden going backwards is not an uncommon thing.
This is what peak performance looks like, everyone. This is an unconventional way to transform a front-wheel drive car into a rear-wheel drive car, but, you know, it's one of the ways doing it. You now have the first rear-wheel steering car in the WRC, and he's got stuck on the side of the road once again, unfortunately. But for Kamikaze, he's going the conventional way, and it seems to be working a little bit better.
Does indeed. Just losing out to Quentin, but the Bales have made their first appearance in tonight's endeavours. Quite often an infamous sight to see in Create Series WRC. We'll see a fair few DNFs, a fair few crashes when Bales become involved. I, for one, have crashed into them numerous times in practices.
Yeah, indeed. They just appear out of nowhere. You know, it's they're lurking always behind the trees and the bushes, just waiting for you to relax on the straight, and then they just pounce. But there are markers, actually. I never noticed that, but if you just look at Jean Manche's perspective as he was going into that chicane, there were tiny little markers with dots on them indicating where the hay bales were. I'm not sure how you're meant to see that at 200 kilometers per hour, but I'm sure it's at least a little attention to detail right there from the organisers.
Probably just enough to go, that's something that I don't recognise, probably something's up ahead.
Go flat out. If you don't recognise it, what's the worst that could happen? That's the rally initiative. Look at how Lyric Sander is getting thrown around in his motion rig. It's a very, very bumpy stage. And it looks like he is very, very committed and concentrated through here. Just trying to not roll the car so he doesn't get shook about. Oh, straight into the ditch and then all the way into the tree, just as I say that. And just making sure that all of his equipment is used to 100%.
That was a beautiful effort to thread the needle between the two trees there as all of our drivers start to come across the timing beam. He'll be happy to see the end of this stage, that's for certain. That motion rig is sending him left and right. I can't imagine whether that's fun to drive anymore as Sander comes across the line as well. I think this is just other drivers getting themselves all set up. Hayden's actually made it to... No, this is Kamikaze's point of view we're watching as he comes up towards the end. Now Jam up to cross the line, because I did question there, because there's no way Hayden, who is still driving backwards, could make it all the way there.
You've got to appreciate the commitment to it, to be honest. You know, this is your average, you know, Tuesday drive, I guess, in Latvia. Off to the grocery store and just driving past. At least he can wave to the fans, you know. The fans can see him and he can see the fans and just wave, and everything is good. And sadly, he'll have to stop near that bus stop, I think, that was coming up, and take the bus home on that stage.
Hayden's commitment to the bit is quite often unmatched here in the Creator Series. We've just seen a prime example of that this afternoon. Let's see who finished the top of our timing sheet this afternoon. Quentin, and then Vlembar, our top two. PJ, who's been rather subdued this afternoon, has made a P3 appearance, and that is exactly what we were expecting to see in the pre-show, wasn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. PJ has a lot of experience, and I think he might be driving on controller. So, you know, a little bit of maybe just peak driving, but also some mistakes.
I've seen PJ setup. I'm fairly sure he's got a massive sim rig set to stats. It might be that he's on console more than he's on controller, but I might be completely wrong with that.
I've seen him drive with both, so
okay.
I think he made a video about it years ago at this point. But yeah, maybe we can get somebody in for interview. I'm hearing that Hayden is available. Let's see. Hayden, maybe not the way to transform a front-wheel drive car into rear-wheel drive, but I appreciate the commitment to it. How did that feel?
It's very sensitive going in reverse, not gonna lie. Yeah, and I got stuck a few times. The dips, the ditches either side, don't know what they're called. But they kept on getting stuck in them, so I had to keep on resetting, and then I try and spin myself around, and I get stuck again. So yeah, a bit slower than probably would have preferred there, but good time nonetheless, I reckon.
I think there's possibly some improvements to be made as we head into the latter half of the Latvia stages. But I mean, for driving backwards, it's probably one of the quickest runs we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly setting records. I don't think anybody would have beaten my backwards lap there. And if I'm going to be losing in the other championship, I might as well create my own one and win that.
That sounds like a plan. That sounds like a very good plan. Create championships until you win. There you go, folks.
Exactly.
That's the new strategy of 2025. But are you enjoying at least the front-wheel drive cars? It's a very different style of car to drive.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's just throwing it around. It's good to sort of like relax a little bit and just muck about and have fun with it. I've realized very quickly that I am awful compared to everyone else in here. So I'm just just taking like a really relaxed approach, and we see jumps, let's go for them full force and see how we fly.
I think we have different definitions of awful. You're doing very well, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Well, Hayden, we'll let you hop back on and get ready for the next couple of stages, but best of luck with them, buddy.
Thank you.
There was a quote that you said earlier, and it was quite an infamous quote in rally. It was, "If in doubt, flat out." If you're struggling, kind of go behind. There's a very similar one that I heard, and I don't want to bring the contention in. It was in NASCAR. Yes, boo me in the chat. But there was a quote from a driver. He was down in P5, P6 or P7, and he needed top 5. And he just goes onto the radio to his engineer. He goes, "I'm just putting my foot to the floor, and I'm not lifting until I see either God or the checkered flag."
That's the spirit. That's the spirit of motorsport in a nutshell, indeed. It's the thing with the Colin McRae quote is that usually that preceded him crashing into about 6 billion trees. So that's quite unfortunate. But yeah, it is the case with these front-wheel drive cars. You've just got to push flat out and hope for the best. Effectively, the tire strategy coming into effect here for our drivers. I think the drivers on the super soft compounds really sort of getting a lot of tire wear, I think, and a lot of understeer even on that second stage. The tires really only last one stage in these, I think, wintry conditions that have been selected. So, the drivers that are on the softs getting maybe a bit more performance as PJ has got stuck on the outside of that corner. Very late braking and downhill braking into that junction. Very, very common mistake to make. And then because you've got only two-wheel drive, you can't necessarily get yourself back onto the stage quickly. So maybe a few spectators there to help out, just pushing the car back on track would have helped.
Yeah, very helpful. The spectators in rally, and now if PJ had been sensible and not shown us his sim rig to in the intermission between stages 2 and 3, we could have wiped that off as that's just an issue on controller. Don't worry about it. But he tagged both me and you in the broadcasting chat and said, "I'm on this and my Xbox. Any lack of pace is a skill issue," and it's a massive sim rig and one that I'm very jealous of.
That's the first time I've heard PJ say skill issue as well, so I find that incredibly hilarious. PJ does not know what the term skill issue means. He's a great driver, and he's got so much passion for motorsport in general, and it's great to see that on every time I chat with him. And Jam having a huge moment there into the bushes on the outside of the corner. Again, this is a location that is very deceptive. You think it's very flat, and then you reach certain locations where it's just a blind crest into a junction right or a 90-degree corner, or even into a lake there, as you can see on the right-hand side. So a lot of dangers lurking in the darkness.
I think as well, yeah, this is the first time we've had a proper night stage this evening, at least with the new content. Jam! Oh, there we go!
That is a huge crash, Colin McRae-esque right there. Finland 1992, and on the roof as well. Look at the detail, lovely detail in the back of the car and the underside of the car, as I was saying. But yeah, we've got two perspectives now, Jean-Marc and Jam going for the interpretive aerodynamics class. of Super 1600.
It's like playing a game of Spot the Difference. They've got almost identical damage to their car.
I think Jean-Marc still has their headlights pod on the front. That's the only difference. Yes, indeed. And I think Jam is missing it. Yeah, there we go. Because I couldn't see any headlights coming from Jam's perspective. So he'll actually find that very difficult to see the stage now. And would you believe it's quite important to see where you're going, even if you intend to do about 10 rolls? But I do appreciate the commitment and the showboating of if you're going to crash, you may as well do it quite well.
Exactly, purely celebratory already from Jam there. Adam Sanson, welcome in and thank you for the raid over on Twitch. Much appreciated, buddy. And hope you had a fantastic stream. I believe you're doing some F1 with your community, but we'll keep you on board. And if you are just coming in from Adam's community, let us give you a quick rundown of what you're seeing this afternoon. WRC, EA Sports WRC, released a new DLC this afternoon, and we're running through some of the new stages, some of the new content, with some of the best and the fastest content creators on the WRC platform.
Indeed. Brilliant summary, and they're getting to the end of the stage right now. Really long left-hander, got to keep your foot in, and hope that there's no understeer. And Alex Gidden has had a huge stage this time. That's a really good time, I think. So a lot of the drivers getting to grips, as I said, with these cars takes quite a bit of confidence, especially seeing as some of the drivers are more used to the F1 content, where it's rear-wheel drive, quite powerful. And in case you didn't know where you were in Latvia, well, there you go. There's 2 signposts that you can now look on Google or something. Yeah, just crashing into that signpost, very, very common mistake to make, just onto the very loose gravel, now onto the tarmac. That's the thing with rallies. There's so many grip changes and, you know, unknown things, especially on a night stage like this, that you have to keep that 1-2% in reserve. Jam, I'm not sure he'll be quite happy with that stage, but he looks like he had a good time anyway.
He was just looking for clues on his GeoGuess around when he crashed into the location barriers there. But Quentin topping the timing sheets again. Vlembar and Punji rounding out 2 and 3. Gillen up in P4. He's really found his feet after the opening stage. He wasn't necessarily on pace in Monte Carlo, but come Portugal, come Latvia, he's really found an extra gear, shall we say.
Yeah, it happens. You know, different driving styles, as I said. Yeah, I think Hayden also was driving backwards and got disqualified on the stage. So there we go. I'm hearing we have maybe somebody in for an interview, so let's see if we can get that with Quentin. Quentin, hello. Welcome to the broadcast, if you can hear us. Speaking in English this time, normally we speak in French. But how are you finding the cars and the new content?
Honestly, I love it. I love the full content. The stage are mega. I love the Portugal, but also Monte Carlo. But Portugal is just mega, and the cars. This is so much fun to drive. It's really cool. Yeah, I mean you can push. It's so great to drive. Really, I love it.
What's been your favourite addition to WRC over this new DLC? What's been your favourite element of it? Was it a stage or a certain car or a certain class?
At the beginning, I was going for the car or Monte Carlo, but when I tried, definitely is Fafe. This stage is just mega. It's so cool to drive, so fast, and yeah, it's just awesome. An awesome stage.
He made it look awesome as well. The little mistakes coming in, but your commitment to the corners, drifting on the handbrake. Reminiscent of me watching you in Rallycross. You know how to send these cars properly, and you seem like you're having a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, I love sending the car. Maybe a bit too much on this time, but yeah, it's really cool, and it's so much fun that yeah, you can send the car and just full flat out. It will go perfectly. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's been some fantastic driving all around from all of our drivers. Of course, we got one more to go, 1 or 2 more to go here in Latvia. I can't.
Yeah, one
2
more.
2 more.
We got some disagreements. 1 more. We'll say 1 more.
We have at least 1 stage. There we go.
Yeah, at least.
It's not about the finish line. It's about the journey, everyone.
Exactly. How are you biting for your chances in Latvia here?
Sorry.
How are you hoping for? Where are you hoping to finish over in Latvia?
Well, for the moment was quite good, and I was with the soft tires, so I had to push more. And now for the pro stage, I have the super soft, so should be a little bit better. So let's see. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to push because I like it. I want to push. So let's see.
Amazing stuff. Well, best of luck to you, and I'm sure we're all rooting for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great attitude. I'm just going to push because I enjoy it.
You ask Quentin what place he wants to finish, and he will say P1 every single time. That's just an invariable. He's such a fast driver, but just committed to getting the most out of the car. And, when everything's on the line, he's very calculated. He knows exactly how much he's comfortable with pushing. But on evenings like this, for example, where he can just afford to go flat out and, there's no prize in effect, apart from the admiration of all the spectators. He will send it 110%. So we've got Pinjo into the stage, rotating into the corner. I'm being told this is indeed the final stage, stage 4. I'll leave you pronounce the stage name. I have no idea.
Vecpils.
It sounds good to me.
Close enough for people at home. If I have completely butchered your language, I apologise. Feel free to tell me how to say it.
It does sound like an Eastern pharmaceutical company, something like that. So yeah, it's on brand. Sounds good to me.
Enough.
I wonder what I'll have to look up the meaning of it. There's obviously a meaning to the stage names most of the time. People will have to be sending it in this one because it's quite a long stage. Punju just getting off. Will he collide with the tree, ricocheting off the tree? I thought he was going to have a huge crash, so I started even pronouncing the word crash, but he got away with it. And that is incredible driving. He doesn't even seem phased by it. It didn't even register.
So from what I've just googled, Vecpils is actually just a small parish in Latvia.
Okay, well maybe in 20 years' time it'll be a pharmaceutical town. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. It's this stage starts very, very fast. You're in 5th or 6th gear all the time, effectively on the rev limiter. And you've got a few junctions here, and about halfway through it starts to become a little bit more technical with a few turns like this, and you've really got to just go in there on the handbrake a little bit as both drivers going wide there. Alex nearly rolling there, clipping the bush. I think the bush saved him from going onto his roof there. But you can see if you misjudge the pace, you haven't got that 4-wheel drive to save you, so you've just got to keep it flat out and turning the wheel and hope for the best, essentially. And sometimes it doesn't work.
Quite a long stage as well that you see ourselves in here. You can see it on the progression chart on the left-hand side. Normally, about 2-3 minutes, we've probably been about third halfway through it. It feels like a bit of a long stage for a few of our drivers here. So concentration, especially after already doing about 2 hours of rally at this point, it could be coming to a kind of a lapse, and all it takes is one small mistake.
Whoa, Alex getting so lucky there, just bouncing out of the ditch, just putting 2 wheels in there and just ricocheting out. And that's not always the way it works. In fact, most of the time you just end up just rolling or getting a puncture. But he's playing with lady luck, as they say. It's one of those rallies where you just have to commit to it because it's so fast. Even though there's quite a few kilometers and sectors to do, you will be going through that at a rapid pace. It's about a minute per sector in this rally. So on other rallies like Monte Carlo, it can be up to 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Yeah, being told in chat, this is, Calbitri. I apologise again. Names are not my forte. This is one of my favourite stages. You can go fast. It's about a 7.5 minute plus stage in these cars, which probably is on the sort of limit of what we've seen this evening.
Indeed, yeah, that's a good point actually. Because it's front-wheel drive, a lot less power. You will be slower in the stages, but seeing how they're sending these cars over the jumps and over the crests, they are definitely wanting to get the early world record.
World records are, there for the taking, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. Whether some of our drivers will be taking them this evening, that could be a completely different question. But it looks like the drivers that were struggling in the earlier stages have really started to find their feet. Jam, I've just noticed, and he's been doing this for at least this stage. From what I see, he's been using the little grooves on the inside of corners, and you've talked about it in previous shows and previous broadcasts, where you always hook your tyres in there and you use them to benefit in the aid of turning the car.
Yeah, the old school term is called ditch hooking. So literally you hook your tyre in the ditch, and you use it to rotate. You know, if fans of Initial D are out there, it's the Takumi line where he puts a wheel in the gutter and uses it to go around the corner faster. It's the exact same concept. You use the friction or indeed the groove to stop the understeer, and so you can carry the speed and be more flowing into especially the fast corners. But it comes with risks. If for some reason your wheel pops out of the ditch, you instantly have no grip because one of your tires isn't in contact with the road, usually the most important one. But also you can risk having a puncture or getting spun around and lots of other things. So it's a bit of risk versus reward, but in rally you have to take risks, so most drivers do it.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see who attempts it in within the creator series and who hasn't necessarily wanted to try and pay off content going through the barrels or the hay bales there with absolute perfection, unfazed, completely unfazed by them.
Yeah, the drivers approach these chicanes as if it's nothing. I know when I approach them, I'm like, oh dear God, I've got to brake for this and choose the right moment to turn in. And then inevitably I hit the hay bale anyway and start a game of pinball as a mini game during my WRC stages. So there you go, Content showing how it's done, and that was absolutely beautiful. Just nailed it, and I think he's firmly in the lead there. We see some red sectors, but I think he's been in the lead for at least another sector, or somebody else has had a crash. But yeah, Content, as he said, he's on those super soft tires, I think, and he'll be pushing the limits right now, as we see.
Certainly is. I think he's just willing to get to that time beam, just finish it off. Puncher's not far behind him at all, as you can see by the progression chart, just kind of switching positions with Jean Mosch there. Alex Gillen up there as well, as is PJ. Sander and Gullis not having the best of runs here in stage 4, but hey ho, sometimes you have good runs, sometimes you have bad runs.
Well, look, for Hayden, at least he's going in the right direction, right? That's one thing. You know, he's not driving backwards, he's not stuck in a ditch. This is pretty good going. And, you know, that's the nature of rally. Sometimes a location or a car combo doesn't suit your driving style or whatnot, and it can be quite difficult to adapt so quickly. Usually it takes about 3 or 4 stages, and the commitment from Content through those corners there, just using the compressions in the bumps to get the car turned and to mitigate the understeer. But that was very, very high risk, and he seems to make it work. This is what I admire about the top drivers in this game and in rally games in general. It's just when you see them commit to the corners, you think that's never going to work, and then they just make it look easy.
Absolutely right, and there's such different driving styles as well amongst the different drivers we see. Kamikaze is a very smooth driver. Quentin, very, very similar as well, but there will be occasions that we'll almost see what we've seen in the F1 titles, where you're throwing the wheel in and waiting for that car to grip, and it's a really interesting way to see how the cars handle.
Yeah, Puncho has a very old school driving style. You can see on his wheel there, very aggressive inputs, just using the understeer and oversteer, a bit like an Alonso 2005 driving style, just flicking the wheel a little bit to get the friction on the tires. That can really work very well, but it's also a high risk, high reward. And I think he will probably finish P2, as Content, I think, has won this stage yet again. Just he's in the zone now, let's put it that way.
Very much so, and it's hard to stop a driver when they are in a zone like this. Alex Gillen,
I think he's going to puncture.
Yeah, I think he's going considerably slower. Yeah, front left.
As soon as you heard he's on the rev limiter, as soon as you hear they're on the rev limiter, there's usually a good reason. And for front-wheel drive cars, that is a front puncture, which means that they will have absolutely zero traction, and the differential will be busy overheating and welding itself eventually.
Of course, because the differential is trying to compensate for the difference in the tyre rotation, and then obviously that leads to issues later on down the line. Unfortunately, it's the final stage for Gillen, and he will get to go home. Sander into a tree.
Straight away, just flat out. I think he was trying to ditch hook it, and they missed the ditch and just went straight bouncing across the bank on the outside straight into that tree there. So easily done, and there's many videos on YouTube of people doing that in real life. These fast flowing gravel rallies just leave sort of no element of doubt. You're either okay on the corner or you're going straight into a tree.
Yeah, full 30 points there for Quentin. He said he was going to go for the win when we chatted to him just before that stage, actually. And gone for it. He has 25 seconds, almost the difference between him and Vlembar. who joins him on P2, John Monch in P3, Punja in P4, Kamikaze P5, Alex Gillen P6, beating up PJ Turney, Jam, Lyric, and then Hayden Gullis running out top 10. And Hayden Gullis seems to be thinking we're on reverse grid all the time. And Gareth Allen and Not Crab Blocker 11th and 12th. Sorry, yeah, 11th and 12th.
I wasn't going to point it out, but there you go. Somebody had to.
Switching between the names.
See, we're using the reverse grid, as you said, and I think that guy called it Gareth Allen. I think he's an emerging talent in the WRC. I think we'll see some stage wins, if not some championships. Maybe he will become the Maestro.
You never know. It's been fantastic to see some of the preview content that we've had here this afternoon. Massive shout out to the guys over at EA Sports who have not only given us kind of an insight into the stage as it was coming in, but an opportunity to put this together on their channel and our channels as well. And I think as premeditated there by Gareth in the background, I think we're going to get Quentin in for a chat.
I think it was Punchu that he was trying to find, but we'll see who we get. Quentin back with us, I think. Yes, there we go. A little bit of head scratching there at the end, but you must be happy with your performance there at the last one. You've definitely shown us how to drive those front wheel drive cars.
Yeah, French car, I had to perform with the French car. Yeah, it was really, really cool. Full flat out. What a combo. It was so great. And yeah, I changed the strategy to take all the change for the pro stage. So now I did the best result possible. So yeah, of course I'm happy. It was really fun, really cool. So yeah.
Are you still sticking with your answer from earlier about the Faith being your favorite state or being your favorite addition into the game?
Yeah, definitely Faith is my favorite addition on the game. Even if there are a lot of French car, a lot of iconic car for me, Faith it's a beautiful stage and I really love it.
You have to appreciate the irony. DLC built around the French dominance of the championship. Monte Carlo stages, Faf is the highlight. To be fair, it speaks to the brilliance and just the high quality of the entire DLC. But yeah, I must admit, seeing you just go flat out over those jumps is probably the highlight of the stream for me. It takes a lot of knowledge to commit like that, and you've definitely shown us how it's done. In terms of the ice as well, just being able to get that perfect drift, and I think you had a 20 or 30 second gap on one of the stages. What else can I say?
Yeah, I love the ice, and the ice on this new stage is even more slippery, I think, and it's so cool. I mean, it's really difficult, really tricky. So it's funnier, of course, because you can slide more, and I like it. You can send it, so it's perfect. But yeah, like you said, I said Faith is my favorite, but it's the full addition content where is just mega. So it's difficult to choose because everything is so good, and congrats to EA for this addition because it's really cool content.
Amazing stuff. Well, Quentin, thank you so much for not only hopping in but showing everybody up over the course of the last 3 rallies. Been fantastic to see you again. Fantastic to see you racing, and hopefully we'll see you back at some point over the course of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I will do the season 5 of the Kratos series, I think. And yeah, thanks you guys for the event. It was really cool, really fun. Can't wait to do more events with you guys.
Amazing stuff. Thank you, Quentin.
Thanks.
I think that was a vote of confidence right there from Quentin towards us. I'll take it.
Yeah, I 100% will take it from a man of his stature. But we go from my apologies.
Please carry on.
we go from the man of one stature to another man of great stature here in the WRC Creator Series. It's the man who inspired all of this. It's Punju himself. Punju, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing very well, thank you.
That was really, 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 really fun preview. That may be the best preview we've done, I think. That was hilariously wild, dude. Like, Some of those stage car combos were amazing.
It was. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I don't have the knowledge or the backing of WRC as probably John does next to me, but even for me, just watching the cars fly over all of the new stages, all the new content that's been added in the game, it's been outstanding.
Yeah, I think in general, probably my favorite combo was, of course, the second one because I did win it. You know, I'm not gonna toot my own horn and that kind of stuff toot, but just did maybe win it. But no, honestly, like in general, I think those 2017, 2021 cars are even better now with that addition of that car. It's gonna make it a really, really commonly run class, I'm guessing. And yeah, big ups to EA with this update. This is a really, really good one.
Yeah, I think honestly, as you described, that second part with the C3 and in Portugal, you just have that like exuberance driving style where you just chuck the cars into the corner and sort it out afterwards. It's wonderful to watch, especially with your camera there with the wheel visible. Just brilliant stuff. So I had a joy watching that. And yeah, I think you can say you're gelling pretty well with these new stages, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Monte Carlo I'm a little bit more struggling with. In general, I'm like not very good at asphalt racing on WRC, but Portugal, man, it is like everything I could want. It's silly jumps that are super blind with a really tight track, but like the medium gravel that's like just slippery enough, but also kind of grippy. It's like it's perfect for me. So yeah, I really like it.
One thing I want to talk about with you before we let you get on with the rest of your evening, of course, we've had the new update, we've had the new content preview. Of course, this kind of leads us on quite naturally to a new series of the Creator Series in itself for WRC. Are there any things you can leak or maybe give us a hint towards as we're heading into the new season?
Absolutely. I can tell you guys this. It drops literally tonight. We're going to be dropping this thing tonight, and we're going to be having our first broadcast round next Monday. It's going to be phenomenal. We're going to be starting off with Monte Carlo. I know it's a little bit of a delayed IRL crossover, but we got to do it because, of course, the first round of WRC 2025 season was just this past weekend with a great rally as well. It was really fun to watch. So we're going to have a lot of fun for that one, and then we'll be jumping into some of the newer stages and newer cars, newer tracks. Of course, Monte Carlo also gets some new stages, so a little bit of a double plus. We're going to double dip on that one. And yeah, get ready to see the club launch tonight, everybody, for some good fun.
Amazing stuff. I'm really looking forward to getting going again. It's always been a great start. I'm gutted to be missing Monte Carlo next week because it's one of my favourites to try and run over. But in my absence, I give you all permission to go off the cliff hilariously.
Oh, you know we will. We're going to do exactly... Man, we need to get B-Roy back because I think he still has the best cliff jump at Monte Carlo ever. I just remember that one. So good. I wish we had the clip on standby because it was just pure comedy. But yes, no, it was... it's going to be a lot of fun and lots of cliff drops, I'm sure.
Amazing stuff. John, unless you got anything else to punch you, we'll let him hop on with his evening.
Wow. I mean, what more is there to say? You know, we're going to have an outstanding Season 5 of Creator Series, I think, with so many talented drivers, so many new tracks and car combos to use. So I can't wait. We're going
to have fun. Very much fun.
Amazing.
Thanks,
Bungie,
guys.
thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll see you at the start of the new season.
Yes, you will. Adios.
See you soon. Adios. Oh, what a great guy, and so fun to talk to as well. I mean, we have got Lyrique. I apologize, I don't quite know how to pronounce your name properly in the chat with us.
Do you want that I put the camera again on the video, maybe?
If possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, wait for a second. Okay, I plug in. It's Lyrique Sander. It's an anagram of my name. But it's okay.
John, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, sure. We saw you in your motion rig. It was very funny to see, especially in Portugal with the jumps. You're a very committed person. You concentrate, and it's lovely to see. How did you experience the stages? Were they good?
Yeah. So I am not a usual player of EA SPORTS WRC, and I rediscovered the game with you today. So it was really cool. And actually, I am really good feeling. Sorry for my English. I am French, and my English isn't so
good English.
The feeling was really nice with the motion, even in Portugal. Yes, and I feel that the game upgrade the motion system feelings, because when I begin the EA Sport WRC with the motion, I don't know if it's the software or if it's the game, but the motion is quite better now, and the feeling is really nice. But I think that motion is not good for performance, because when you are in motion, I think you lost maybe some energy and some concentration, So it's good because you're in the game, and for the camera it's good too because it's moving and whatever. But yes, the for the performance, I don't think it's not a good idea.
But it looks very cool. I'll give you that.
It's awesome. Like for the games, for rally games, I tested on Assetto Corsa, on F1 and everything, and the best feeling I have is on rally games for sure, because when you are, for example, in Portugal, when there is a jump, you really feel the jump. It's like I don't know how I can tell it, but yes, it's crazy. It's crazy, and combined with my SimuCube system is a total immersive system, because I have 3 active pedals on my feet, and so double motion plus 3 active pedals. It's for rally games, it's insane, and it works really, really well with EA Sport WRC, so it's good.
I'm going to have to hide my credit card, TK. I'm
So
getting very
am
bad
I,
ideas.
Unfortunately, he just called me broken about 3 different languages.
Yeah, the price is crazy, like it's cost most than my car, but I have
It's all
I have
good.
the chance to be the partner with all these brands, so it's cool. But yes, for people who really wants to experience something crazy, I don't have the money to go on a real car, so yeah, all the system, and thanks EA Sport WRC for this kind of experience, because I used to play another rally game. I play two rally games, and the 2 are really crazy, and they give us really crazy experience. So thanks for this. And tonight was really, really crazy. It was my first time doing this kind of events, and experiencing a lot of rally special. So yeah, it was good. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on, and massive congratulations for the runs this evening.
Thanks. Was cool.
Amazing stuff. What an evening we have had, John. And of course, if any brands are watching out there and want to send me and John a full motion rig as well, absolutely feel free.
Sure. I have space right here for it. Yeah, no worries, no problem. I think it's actually a very good point, though, isn't it? That a lot of people don't have the funds or even the time to prepare a rally car to go and rally in real life. And so having up-to-date simulators with the latest and greatest in technologies and compatibility, and indeed in terms of hardware, to replicate the feelings that you get, it just all keeps going forward and keeps going to another level. Sometimes you get better handling cars or more in-depth handling cars, better stages and more in-depth stages, or indeed better equipment, and it represents another leap forward in terms of just quality, and I find that astounding and amazing at the same time.
Absolutely right. We have come leaps and bounds in the last few years, being able to replicate what quite a lot of drivers would have on a real racetrack or on a real circuit, or as we said, in a real rally. And watching on board with that full motion rig being almost harnessed into what he was driving with, it is incredible how it must feel to go over every single bump and jump. You must really feel connected to the car in a way that quite often you can't do without that sort of technology.
Yeah, indeed. And, it also represents how many sort of different sim rigs and different combos you can use in a rally game and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And people like Vlembar and, playing exclusively on controller. I know also some people that play on keyboard and that can set almost world record times. So it's brilliant to see. And then you can go all the way up to that full sim rig. And, you can find enjoyment with everything. And I think that's the best part about a rally game. And yeah, it's brilliant.
Very much so. It's been absolutely fantastic to watch through not only the drivers, but the new elements that have been brought on by the DLC this evening. I'm just going to give another massive shout out to EA Sports, who have been kind enough to give us the previews, to be able to let us watch and learn before we did this event this evening, and of course broadcast it on their channels as well. I think that goes without saying that we were live on the EA Sports WRC channel this evening. So hello to everyone over there if you are still watching along. But John, where can they check you out if they want to do so just a little bit more after this evening?
Well, usually they can find me wrapped around a tree in EA Sports WRC. But yeah, if you want to see that, you can find me at Anything Is Amusing on all of the social medias and YouTube, Twitch, and all of that stuff. And yeah, it's always fascinating for me to find different ways to crash a car. I don't know how I do it. I'd love to stop doing it, but I don't have a choice over that, apparently.
Amazing stuff. If you want to check me out, I'm a little bit more. I'm at They Call Me TK on every single social media, sometimes with a little underscore just in front of it. In terms of Creator Series social media, just above our heads, there's YouTube, Instagram, X, or Twitter and TikTok as well. All of those at F1 Creator Series. Check out our producer as well at Gareth Allen TV on all the social medias. He hates us shouting him out, but I do it every single week because he is the brains of the brawn, quite literally behind this operation. We don't do anything with it. We don't touch our screens. We just talk about what we see, and everything that gets put on the screen is to do with him. If you're watching along on the EA Sports WRC channel over on YouTube, first of all, thank you. Second of all, come follow all of our socials. We do a show every single Monday for WRC. And very similar to what we saw this evening, probably with even more guests. But at the time, it is the end of the evening. We've had just under 2.5 hours of awesome rally endeavours in the new stages of EA Sports WRC. From all of us here up in the commentary box, it is good night and God bless.
Welcome to WRC 24 Le Maestros DLC. Get behind the wheel of 6 new classic cars. Race like a rally legend in 18 new liveries. We've got new stages in Portugal, including the iconic Bath stage. Also tackle new stages in Monte Carlo in all weather conditions. Now is your turn to relive the era of French dominance.